right. Hello, everybody. Welcome from everywhere around the world. Well, good evening, good afternoon, or good morning, depending on where you are. We're here to talk about the live markets, and it has been a crazy Asian European session off the back of Friday. Hope everyone had a good weekend, and obviously there's a lot to talk about in today's live stream. I see already a few things that are pretty surprising. Obviously, we've got Elon Musk making some tweets, and he's been tweeting quite recently and talking about how exciting, obviously, the Battery Day event will be. And that's got Tesla actually up pre-market, 2.52% pre-market up. A lot of hype coming into this event. And I noticed on the Nikola to the other side, down 30. Down 28 to 30 in the pre-market. So pretty big moves across the board. A couple of shout outs here. We've got so many people coming in early. A lot of excitement, obviously, for the markets. Hello, Shane. Hello, Gazir. Hello, Siddharth. Hello, Dr. Horton, Pavel, Malachi, Dr. Australis, Daniel Harris, and everybody else. If you didn't get a shout out, don't worry. So many people in the chat right now. Yeah, basically we've got markets down around 2 to 1.5% across really all of the markets. We had a massive sell-off in the Euro stocks today, 3.5%. Obviously also HSBC was not looking very good, I think, in lowest in 25 years or something like that. So just really proving the pressure is on the banks across the board. VIX up 4% to 31.25. We'll be talking about that some more. And a few people may be surprised, of course, we've got a decline in gold and silver. Why is this? Well, obviously, we've got a massive increase, of course, in the US dollar overall. So quite a few things going on. Let me just quickly reload one of my programs. Notice that wasn't working. There we go. Got our drawing programs ready to rock as well. So yeah, gold and silver both down, as well as platinum and the metals. And really the only thing up today is VIX and Tesla and US dollar. So that's pretty interesting. How's everyone been? Few people look like they're going to be shorting. UK going to have a brutal day. Yeah, it certainly is. The FTSE is not doing well. Neither is a whole bunch of others. McDonald's down 1.5%, says Dr. Horton. Not much, but I don't believe I've seen a drop since June. Yeah, it's been a pretty good stock. I think a lot of market representatives are really rotating into a whole bunch of defensive stocks at the moment, and they're thinking about kind of what we were thinking about in the channel a little while ago, which was high unemployment equals potentially, these kind of, defensive style stocks that do well in high unemployment doing well. McDonald's was certainly one of them. HSBC down due to fraud and moving scam money for scammers. Yeah, absolutely, Bill. But there's also a huge amount of pressure on these banks across the board. Jacob says you're sweating over the weekend. Yeah, puts in there, Jacob. What have you got? Short since Friday. Yeah, probably leverage too. So let's have a look at the indices coming in. Then we'll go through some crypto. We'll go through a couple of US dollar pairs, get back over into the stocks, into the pre-market. Obviously, US 500 coming in at a break low. We're sitting at 32.75 handle, 32.76 pre-market. That's well and truly closing below and coming into 3,200 territory, possibly even today. We've spoken quite a lot about that. Now, remember, 3,200, few interesting facts about that level on the S&P. What are we going to see when we get to the 3,200? Probably the 20 and the 50 basically hugging and touching each other. That point there is very critical for markets to turn bullish. We do not want to see 2050s cross below if you are kind of looking at a point of further, kind of bullish action after that point. If it does turn bearish, often it's a pretty bad sign for the markets. It obviously happened over here. It happened over here and failed to do anything. But this one here is a much deeper pullback. And of course, 3,200 is such a key support that after that, you're going 3,000. And after that, you're going 2,800. Basically, my thought process on the structure of the markets right now is they're moving in 200 blocks. And obviously, every 100 matters on the S&P, but the 3,200 is the key level. Let's jump into the 4-hour here and then go over to the Nasdaq, which is showing the cleanest pattern. So we have the 4-hour futures basically sitting underneath this 3,300 previous support. We obviously had the first touch, the second touch on the futures. We had a touch bounce, and then, as I was mentioning, we had a structure formation in a channel that ended up showing weakness. Now, one thing, we'll go through this a little bit later. We'll talk about channels and structure, but if you haven't watched our YouTube video on it, there's certainly a lot to be going through on that one, because this particular little section here where it finds weakness halfway through the channel is such an important point. We've got obviously further shorting, hit the low again, bounce off it, and then just bang, straight back down the Asian session. Now, I don't really think futures mean that much. We have to see US lead here. We've got a huge amount of news in terms of the printing press, Powell. Not that he's printing very well at the moment. Coming out this week, we have Fed Chair Powell speaking at 12 a.m. my time, which will be, if we refresh this, I believe in only a few hours. So we've got 12, and that would be in 2 hours from now. We've got then Bank of England, Governor Bailey speaks. The pound had a massive move on it today. Fed Chair Powell testifying on Wednesday. And then we have official cash rate for New Zealand, whatever. It doesn't really matter that much, unfortunately, to the rest of the markets. And US dollar, Fed Chair Powell testifies again Thursday, and then Mnuchin and Fed Chair Powell out again on Friday. So lots going on this week with Powell everywhere. Quite a few comments coming in here, which is excellent. I'll quickly go up here and answer a few of these. Held short positions since last Thursday post FMC, took a risk and held it over the weekend, and today it is paying off. We'll probably sell them tomorrow and not get greedy. That's absolutely fair enough, Gemmin. You don't want to ever get greedy with shorts. It's a fast market. You could see it definitely pop at anything, really. Was praying for no stimulus news? Yep, of course. Banks caught global money laundering? Yes, they did, Rev. Absolutely. Christina says, hi. Hello. How you going, Christina? Holding shorts puts over the weekend is risky business. Nothing like the Tom Cruise movie. Yeah, holding puts and shorts. A lot of people get caught up in holding positions. I don't think it's necessarily, if you spread a position, it's not necessarily risky. I think it's just all, the way you look at it. It's interesting. I was talking with some people in the room today, and everyone was talking about credit spreads in options. That's all they were talking about, just credit spreads. And I said, well, what about debit spread? Because that's actually the better way of doing a lot of things. Obviously, you have to put money out, but your risk is capped in those cases. And they were like, what? No credit spreads. I understand with options, it's great to get credit. But yeah, usually debit spreads work quite well as well. I've got no problem with that, having max capped risk. We're close to getting the 20K sub mark, says Malachi. Absolutely. Sub now if you can, because at 20,000, we're giving away $500. We'll hopefully be doing it this week. I've got big plans, and I really hope that the channel goes strong this week and we get to 20K. Thank you to each and every one of you out there that's been subbing and supporting us. SPX 3100 incoming. 3100, Pavel. All right. We'll have to get through the 3200 first for sure. I really think and feel that if we get through the 3,200, you're pretty much going to go to that 3,000 sub. I feel like it's that 200-point movement. Pa says, I love the new subscriber goal bar. Yeah, thanks, mate. Yes, we have goals now. We're getting better at the streaming game. I've got a whole bunch of things. I have a bell, hopefully, that will work today for the live. All right, let's talk about this Nasdaq quickly. So we've got our idea for the structure already set. We obviously talked about this on our weekend analysis video. We basically discussed this a little bit last week as well, that it makes sense that when a market moves, the structure point becomes the next area. So we've got our structure here. We've obviously got the low into the trough, into the peak, into the trough, into the peak, and then it's broken through it at pretty much the second touch each side. So we've got one touch here. Got two touches. When it goes to the midpoint, usually you're talking of this of a channel or some form of double bottom, at least at that point. Now, usually I say channel when there's two touches, and I think of it as the same thing as really what you'd be looking for a double bottom. When it breaks through to a low, what are you going to do? Well, you're always going to be looking at taking the structure of the move. You're going to take the distance from that 11,570 down to the support here at 10,954, extrapolate that out, and that's where you get the 10.4. Whenever you're doing TA, if a pattern proves into another key support or resistance zone, it is so much better. It is always so much better. Just remember that. Pattern structure formation into another structure formation, e.g. support down here, it's proving that the market's thought about the process, it's thought about this structure, and there's a bigger plan. Think of it as like it's like the blueprint to a big plan is a good way of putting it. But I really like the fact that it's doing that. Now, because the market actually is closing down here, it's actually pretty bearish coming into the market open here. I wonder how fast this goes bearish. It's already come up and tested the previous support and acted as resistance. We had support, support, support on the Nasdaq here, tests as resistance, and then short straight off in the Asian session. I'm not sure if I trust the futures market, but certainly it's done the right things from a TA perspective. Instantly finds that resistance and shorts off. Jimmy says you need to believe in your analysis and your plan. Absolutely, Jimmy. Confidence is key when it comes to trading. Absolutely, mate. Very good point. And one of the ways that I get confidence in my trading plan is always that if I get market structure and that market structure proves a point to an area, that gives me a lot of confidence. And I always think, yes, that's the way I want to be doing it. DAX was a train wreck, but copper is still up. Any opinions on that? Yeah, so Gary, I thought I'd answer this one actually. So a lot of people will know that I've been using copper as a bit of a gauge of, overall market health and whether we're in a corrective phase or a crash phase. So there's a few good points, and I agree with all these points. Number one, we do have supply shortages of copper due to some problems with, of course, this current crisis right now. And number two, China's buying tons of copper. And there's just general demand around the world. Copper generally bulls, though, into the out of a recession phase. So usually governments start infrastructure projects, they start ordering, they start doing those types of things, and then it puts demand on the pipe. Now, I think the demand's overall higher than it should be, and obviously supply is weaker, but I still think regardless, if we were in a proper corrective phase, crash market here, we would be seeing copper dump quite hard, regardless of whether there's a huge undersupply. Now, obviously, if the undersupply was astronomical, it would be different. But in my opinion, I don't think that the undersupply is that crazy. And I think there is a huge demand from governments. And they've proven when the Fed started what they did, what they really said was, we're going to ruin everything to get it back on track. And we don't know what's happening next, and we don't particularly care. And that's what we're going to do. Now, some people may not agree with that, but they kind of ruined the money system. Long term, they've made some big mistakes here that they don't really know the ramifications of. And while they did that, what they've done is they basically said, we've put a line in the sand, we cannot let it go. They do not want to let it go, and they will not do it. Bitcoin dumping pretty hard. Yes, it will be. Let's have a look at Bitcoin. But yeah, my thoughts on copper are undersupply right now in terms of there's just not enough out there. China's buying tons of it. And obviously, it is a demanded product. I still think, though, it would be crashing or at least falling if we were in more than just a corrective phase during this point. Now, it could change from that point, but at this point, yeah, I think that's fine. All right, let's load up our Bitcoin over here and have a quick look at what's going on there. Bitcoin's still a very good sentiment gauge. So we're back on support coming into the pre-market. Basically, we had our previous structure break. For anyone that's been following the stream last week, we pretty much called it to this point. And we said that previous support would act as resistance. We said the 12K, 1200 level, so 11,200. And 11,200 was almost reached. What do we know about trades? A good little kind of tip. Whenever you expect a level, so say we expect this support to become a resistance, are we going to be greedy or are we going to take it slightly early like the big guys do? Always take it slightly early. So that's a very, very key point. Why is China buying so much copper? It's used a lot in heavy rebuilds. So when you're one of China's go-to tools has always been building out infrastructure projects, building out things, creating jobs, that kind of stuff. Someone says ammo. I don't think so, but yeah, that's a good point. So yeah, hit the resistance. It's come back down. We really would like to see Bitcoin find support around here. Let's take a look at the smaller time frame. So the daily, this is really the area that you want it to find support. Previous resistances acting as support around this 10.5 level. Bitcoin we know usually loves very much the 500 kind of zones. We know 10K is super buying support. So if it got back down there, we'd usually find a lot of buying support. But the main reason Bitcoin, gold, and silver are down is strong DXY. If we have a look at DXY, it held very well. I actually put this out to anyone in our private Discord this morning, and I was talking about this 92.80 zone being kind of a fortress on the 1 hour and the 4 hour, and you can see it kept bouncing off it. It basically hit once, twice, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, bounced off that level, broke through a very key psychological being the 93 here, because it was basically triple bottoming here. Ballistic, went ballistic during the Asian session. So pretty strong dollar. Overall, our thoughts on the dollar remain very, very similar to what they were last week, which is that we're still stuck in overall a bit of a range, and that 93.80 still remains very key resistance for a proper sentiment change. If we take this out and we think about where the market is right now and how much the dollar is still really tanking overall, it needs to cement. Let me just get rid of some of these lines. It needs to basically cement itself as this was accumulation and we're in the next move. And it cannot really be in that kind of area until it gets through this 93.80, 94 zone. 10K support for BTC. Yeah, I would think there's a lot of buying pressure there at BTC for 10K. Absolutely. Powell is running out of tools, says Shane. US government needs to step it up. I think Powell has tools, Shane. I think he doesn't want to use them. Why would you use everything you've got when you've already overstepped supporting the market? I think that he has crazy tools. You know, they're not good tools. They're bad long-term tools, but he'll only start it if he absolutely has to. If you read some papers from Bernanke has crazy ideas. He was one of the old. He's got some crazy ideas about what the Fed should do. So yeah, S&P 500 still down 1.7% coming in. Obviously, dollar really the strength story of the day, and Nasdaq overall down to the 10.7 right now. I think Nasdaq still presents the best potential kind of sell-off into nice buy supports, and we'll put it all in perspective in just a few minutes, but yeah, very, very interesting points there. Let's take a look at volume off the witching hour event, of course, that happened last week. Volume was huge on the Friday. In fact, it's really large. 7 million here. So this is a huge amount of volume that we were seeing come through. And then we had pretty big volume on the other 2 days. Traditionally, usually this Thursday would be the big day, and the Friday would be the day that usually has some volume, but not this big. That was huge. I wonder really how much of that was institutions playing around. Do I recommend Bernanke's writings? I'm only saying have a look at them because he brings up all the points that he's come up with some wacky ideas on how to support the economy from a Fed perspective. So if you understand them, then it's worthwhile thinking about those. Just to know that they're possible, and that's something that people in the committee were thinking about. Thoughts on Tesla battery day hype versus market weakness? Well, my thoughts are pretty clear on this one. I think it's been a lot of buy the rumor, sell the fact that's gone on. We saw Apple. We're going to look at some individual stocks in a few minutes, but Tesla is the power of sentiment. So this is a incredible hold, really. 1.76 still up pre-market. I think it probably holds a bullish intent coming into the battery day. And then if it doesn't live up to even the massive hype it's in, I think it's in a massive hype. Which do I recommend? I'll have to get that for another stream, mate. I'll have to get that papers. There was a few papers he wrote like years ago, like 4 or 5 years ago. All right, we'll go through some other questions here before we go into everything else. Yes. What if China uses copper as a weapon and dumps it? It's possible. Yeah, so what you're probably thinking about, not so much that. I think that they're stockpiling so they can put pressure on trade. Absolutely. They could do that. Will Nasdaq bounce this week? Got some QQQ for swing trades. Thanks, Tom. I think Nasdaq certainly could bounce this week. We've been kind of ideally looking at this 10.4, 10.5 zone for a bounce. Let's have a look at the weekly here on the Nasdaq. I know so many people here come in for the indices plays and talking about the markets in general, and we do have a nice level around this 10.5 in terms of the 20. We might overshoot, go 10.4, but I've mentioned a few times the Nasdaq's going to go these 500 lots, so it's going to go down to the 10.4, 10.5, potentially down into the 10K itself, and then if it goes that low, it's going to hit the 50. But both of these levels are very key levels in the market. This is usual pullback. It's pretty normal right now. If we put it in perspective, we put a fib on top of everything, This is not what we saw earlier this year so far. Remember, it went crazy. When the market goes crazy euphoric, we should have a healthy pullback. It's not abnormal for this event to occur. And if it's your first time or first year in the markets, while it may seem crazy, a 38.2 fib pullback is super normal. This is actually, I've talked about it a few times. My favorite kind of zone to pick up things is in this range here, between the 38.2 and the 50 pullback. The 50 is sitting right on the 50 EMA as well, and that's previous highs. So in this range here, usually what you want to see is the market come down, find some form of level. So where it comes through here, finds a level of support, and then bounces up high. So if you get that kind of lightning bolt off there, that's really the end of the trend and the start of the new trend. So yeah, I think this is very, very healthy. It makes me, as somebody that manages funds and that kind of thing, it makes me quite happy to see a correction. You might think that's crazy, but realistically, if it goes euphoric, it's incredibly tough to deal in those markets over the long term. Thanks very much for subscribing, everybody. We're getting close to that goal. Remember, at 20K, we'll be giving away $500 as well, just to being a subscriber. What do you think of ASX 200 on technicals? Paul says. Paul fam, I will take a look at that. And there are some pretty key levels on the ASX 200. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodcut? Oh, I screwed it up. There you go, Jeff. I can't even say it, the riddle. Could you teach me how to get those average lines, please? If you want to get moving average lines, then what you want to do is you basically just want to use TradingView, go indicators, and then add them. And obviously you want to add simple and exponential moving averages. We use exponential 20, exponential 50, simple 200. How much coffee do I drink at night? Too much, household dog. I basically used to have about 7 or 8 coffees a day, which is probably a bit wild. It's probably not good. A fair bit of adrenaline in the markets. Ian said, I heard $500 in a sub straight away. No worries, mate. I hope you win. How big should the lightning bolt be? Okay, so it doesn't actually need to be on the weekly, this lightning bolt. So say we want to go into this range. How does a lightning bolt really work? Well, we could look at even a 4-hour lightning bolt on a market like this. So we could get down into our range level, and then we could just see all it is really a trough, a peak, a higher trough, and then a higher peak. Now, why is that important? So it's this little bit in here that's important. The trough, the peak, the high trough, and the high peak. Why is that so important? It shows momentum in the next direction. It's pretty much what most novice traders won't look for. They don't look for this because they want the best price. I totally understand why you want the best price, but when you're trading, then if you're like investing and you're prepared to average down and do all those kind of things and you've got long-term plans on stuff, then you can just buy the level you like. Why not? But if you're trading, confirmation is key, especially on the smaller time frames. So lightning bolt, where you've got trough, peak, higher trough, higher peak. What that's saying to the market is it's basically saying we're going long, we're going to the moon. It happens, of course, on the short side as well. Have I covered Tesla yet? No, I'm just warming up into Tesla. No worries, we'll get there soon. We'll have a look at Nikola first. So Nikola coming in 27% down. It's actually 30% down before into the markets. This stock is looking pretty sick. Obviously a huge amount of people very skeptical. I guess it's just really a lesson. If you got burnt by this stock, I feel bad for you. It could go really bad. But this is really a lesson of when you have a stock on an index for too little a period of time, it often does quite poorly. And what I mean by that is it might have extreme moves, it becomes popular, but this becomes a trade and a risky trade at that. It doesn't become an investment. Most stocks that go parabolic straight away usually get busted up pretty fast as well. Now, can I ask also, is our subscription alert box coming up? I feel like it's not. Shane, thank you very much. Tom's Coffee Fund, appreciate it, brother. Very nice. Don't worry, I'm putting it towards very good news. Oh, there it is. You've activated the Kramer. I love that GIF way too much. Everyone must know who Kramer is by now. I'll be right back, guys. I'm just going to quickly get some water for the rest of the stream, but absolutely we'll be back and doing a whole bunch more analysis, and we'll get into Tesla when we get back. Then we'll go into Apple and a whole bunch of other stocks. Be right back in just a minute. All right, I'm back, ready to go for quite a few more hours now. Thank you very much again, Shane, for the coffees there, mate. Nicholas CEO just left. Wow, that's not good. That is not good. Let's have a look at this Tesla in terms of stock and what's going on right now. So we basically saw what Tesla generally does when a market corrects. It obviously had an incredibly fast sell-off. Then sentiment changed, hit the structure, and moved forward. It hit that 50 EMA, and that becomes a very important point. The reason I go back to this is because the 50 EMA was touched, and then it found huge support on that, as well as there was market structure. When you have usually two touches to an EMA, e.g. down here when you had two touches to the 20, it becomes that self-fulfilling prophecy that the next time, and possibly the next time after that, is a very good time to buy off those EMAs. So remember, it's the 1-2 method I talk about a lot. You got one touch, two touches. The third one is usually pretty good for it. And that certainly was the way here. Let's dial into the smaller timeframes. Basically what we have is we'll line up just some of our resistances. We know 500 is a key psychological zone of insanity. In fact, it may even reach it after the battery experience and then sell off from that. I'd be very, very careful about the 500. We also know that it hit around this 450. Now, one of the things is if we consider this a blow-off event, one thing that you always know is if a market sells off very aggressively and then comes back, where does it come back to? Well, if you use a fib tool, I've talked about this a lot on the channel. It's happened a lot of times, happened on NVIDIA as well. We can use the example. Basically, it comes back usually within the 61.8 and the 78.6 fib, and then that is all it is, and it goes back down and tests the lows again. It happened with gold, it happened with silver, it happens with most blow-off tops. Now, I would probably consider this mostly corrective, but this is still an incredibly fast seller. $500 down to $330 in what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days of trade. So not many days, and it sold off a huge amount of percentage. This is critical right now. I still think that there's a lot of risks here. We go critical, we either sell off here and then potentially go and test lows again. If we buy here, yes, we could very quickly flash into 500, but then 500 is probably going to be a key selling point. Remember, retail traders and sentiment drives this stock. Often when it hits key levels, it sells off on them because all we as retailers do is we always like to take the profit at the round psychological numbers. All right, let's jump into the 4 hour. So that's just some thoughts about that time frame there. Get rid of this. And, you know, I'm not sure about these spike data actually. I'd have to go and have a look at what actually happened here, but I noticed there's some spike data on this particular feed. Let's go over here to the 458 kind of area and just talk about this. So basically we have key resistance being reached straight away pre-market 2%. We're hitting the resistance here at that previous high before it sold off. Why did we find support? Well, again, it hit a key EMA, and at the same time as it hit a key EMA, it was pulling back into structure. There would have been a fib pullback off this as well. So these are all the reasons that you want to be looking at buying usually. You get your fib. If you can line that up as well, don't use magnetic fibs like I'm doing. If you get like a 38.2 an EMA, and market structure, that's usually 3 really good separate reasons to be in the trade long. 3 really good separate reasons to be in the trade long. When we hit the resistance up here, we'll probably find some selling pressure today. If we get through this point, then we come back down, test the previous resistance, that becomes support, probably try to bull into 500. So if it breaks and closes the 4-hour above here, it's looking strong, very strong. If it sells off here, 420 becomes the point where you go, please don't go under that loan zone, because it goes under that zone, back down to the previous structure point, back down to the previous structure point. So that's how I always look at it. The market has, in TA, it's really key levels. If we find key levels in the market, everything out in between those zones is just noise. Marlene, $4 with a sticker. Thank you very much. And a coffee. Very good. I must admit, is that a coffee or is that some kind of red crazy beverage? Thank you very much, Marlene. I appreciate that. Australian $4 as well. Hopefully you're not in Melbourne, Marlene. Not in the nasty lockdown like us. So yeah, the way I look at everything in TA is you find key levels and everything in between it is just a zone that's going to fill. When you start thinking about markets that way, it's cool for 2 reasons. One, let's say we're looking at Tesla right now and we think, okay, this is the best. When it breaks this resistance, we're very keen on it. Well, when it comes back down, what can we do? Well, we can potentially go in the smaller time frames and say, okay, let's scalp it in the direction of the zone fill. Now, I don't think this is an exceptional opportunity, but sometimes you'll have like a resistance being met like this 3 times, let's say, 1, 2, 3. It'll break through, it'll come back down and retest it. And then all of a sudden, this point here becomes a sweet area for you to go down the smaller time frames and fill it to the next resistance zone. Does that make sense? It's a cool thing. It changed the way I look at markets. The battery is made of lemon juice. Is that like one of our school projects? I remember making batteries at school. Learning all about it. Are you worried about all the macro events that seem to be piling on top of each other? None seem good. Luke, look, there's been macro events and there's been noise that's been so bad for so long. They always pile on each other when you least expect it. And when a market sells off, it becomes everything that you think about. Let's think about the crash this year. We were just constantly thinking about so many bad things. 1929, recessions, unemployment at crazy levels, all these sorts of things. When the Fed did what they did, when the fiscal policy did what they did, they basically filled the entire GDP hole. I'm not saying we'd recover straight away, but definitely tech is going to earn a ton of money. Adelaide, Marlene says, great place. Great place. I like Adelaide. Very quiet over there. It's quite nice. All right, so Tesla here, that's my thoughts really. We've got key zones. Tesla trades with sentiment. It's going into battery day, and we've got quite a lot of obviously hype into that event. I still think it could be the buy the rumor, sell the fact, but that is my opinion only. Maybe it is amazing. The market must justify at the end of the day. Mackie D's? Yeah, that's right, Shane. Dollar waiting to move up. Yeah, I think it could be very interesting coming into the open here for the dollar, for, of course, gold today and the markets. Let's take a look at the VIX right now. Let's see what's happening here. So the VIX is actually moving higher. Does that mean we got actually further selling on the futures? Let's have a look at the US 100. So US 100 still sitting at about 1.51 down the futures. 1.68. There we go. There's the refresh. So we saw that VIX going high. So VIX broke through the key 28. It really now signals, well, of course, the 30 is the next resistance. But after that point, boy, oh boy, the VIX could spike hard. It could spike hard. If you're looking at it from a TA perspective, and I've said before, look, I know a lot of people think that the VIX is very technical, and it is to a degree, but I use it more, I don't trade it so much. I use it more as a helpful tool for me to then analyze the markets with. I don't like trading it because of the costs involved with it. It's very short-dated type of areas. Roman says, Tesla is definite. Buy the rumor and sell the fact. Everyone on the same page, self-fulfilling prophecy. Look, Roman, it's definitely the way that a lot of people should be looking at it. And if they are, then the self-fulfilling prophecy is the sentiment, isn't it? Let's see if we're all correct there on that one. So here we've got effectively a little bit of a double bottom on VIX if we want to talk about it from a technical perspective. Got the, what we call, I guess, the Eve double bottom, and then the Adam kind of peak here, where basically this is a much more aggressive move. We've obviously got all the moving averages moving up very aggressively now, and the market is testing that 30 right now. Nice for VIX holders though. If you're holding VIX long, that's a good pickup of percentage. And I think a lot of people are trading VIX. I see it in the comment section all the time. You know, it used to be TVIX, it used to be this and that. Very, very popular. So VIX, very highly highly volatile at the moment. And I could see it spiking much higher if we actually start selling further today. If we get like a 3 or 4% day, obviously VIX will be up in 35 very quickly. I don't know if VIX is going back up to 40, 50 though again. We'll check out Google. We'll check out Apple. Apple is definitely one of the targets I want to look at today. Apple is, I think, one of the best technicals in terms of the key pickup zones. If we have a look here, Apple pre-market 103.90. Wow. That's a pretty big sell-off now. We've gone 138.50 down to 103. Now, obviously, that's just taken off now. Pretty much all of August is gone, and we're back down. It deserved to have a pullback. Let's have a look at this on the daily and the weekly. So on the daily, what do we notice? The $100 is previous resistance. It's pulling back into this zone. Let's go to the weekly quickly. And then let's just load up 20 moving average sitting right on the 100. I've mentioned this for 3 or 4 weeks. We obviously talked about it. Unfortunately, markets cannot parabolically go away from the 20 for too long, especially on this kind of incline. It will eventually pull back, and that is what happened here. Dr. Horton says, looking at the calendar this week, I'm bullish on Powell's nervous cough. Yeah, Powell really does cough a lot during his speaking, doesn't he? But yeah, down here to the $100 makes a lot of sense. We've got 20 moving average here. We've got structure going on as well from previous high. Let's draw a fib of the whole move as well and see whether we have a fib overlaying. Remember, use fibs as a tool to help you with your analysis already. See, right now we're hitting a fib already here. Now, is this going to make me think less of the 20? Not really. It just means that it's not overlaying to that point. Now, I like picking up things between the 38.2 and the 50 fib, as I said. So all of the zone, I consider that the box. In fact, what I might do at this point is I might actually go and I'd get like my little rectangle box out and I'd draw that area, and then I could leave that on my charts, get rid of my stupid fib. And then at that point, I've got my box, which I'm interested in setting alerts for. AW says, I would buy Apple at 100 support. Well, you know, the thing is, if you've got a plan, AW, then you hopefully can put it into practice. Obviously, you must make your own decisions, though. Again, this market and the why I keep saying Apple, Apple, Apple is because it's going to have a very similar type of pattern on it, very similar kind of support and everything going on as the Nasdaq itself. So we're going to have a 2050 kind of touching each other, potentially at the support down here. Ideally, we see it create structure. What I'd love to see is the market come down here, have some boring days to everybody else, create structure, create a base, and then bull. Oh, that would be great. Accumulation down here would be so awesome. I love accumulation. I actually hate whipsaw. So if you see like a market like this and it goes, yeah, I don't really like that. I like it come down and do what everyone else hates, which is this. Very nice. Accumulation, breakout long, beautiful. Apple is why we're crashing, basically, says unexpected visit. You're not wrong there, unexpected. It's basically like it's as big as some stock exchanges. Apple is a sentiment driver right now. It drove the market high and it drove the market back down. So that's some of my thoughts on Apple. We got that $100 kind of support there. Very nice moving average. Whole bunch of structure going into it. But yeah, overall, that's some of the thoughts there. Let's check out Alphabet. I think a few people went to look at Google. Fair enough. Which one will we look at? Click at this one. So basically with Alphabet, it's been selling off. I'm actually surprised it got this high. It went on a euphoric run there in the last month. Alphabet's been historically weaker. Let's put Alphabet in a bit of perspective by going on a monthly. So big moves still on this stock, but actually has been trading in a range that it broke out of. Now, obviously, there's super buys whenever it comes back down to the range. Are we thinking it's going to come back down to this 1250, 1300? Probably not. But look how far away it is from the monthly 20, which it has touched a lot of times through this bullish run. It's pulled back quite a few times. Go to the weekly now. We're already through the 20, so Alphabet is comparatively weaker than the other companies. It's going to come under a lot of pressure as well. Look, advertising is not what it used to be. They obviously haven't built a whole bunch of new businesses, and I'm not sure how well they're really doing out of this crisis. But overall, there is incredible pressure, buy pressure, of course, off this previous point of resistance. Usually this would have picked any market. If you see this traditionally in stocks, and you've got these really clear levels, and you've also got a clear break, clear consolidation above the break, and then break high, this should have held. This 1300, if it wasn't for the crisis and the nature of it, a technical here, that was a great buy zone. I know that seems crazy because it sold through, but can everyone see that? 50 EMA, whoa, crazy big line. Let's get rid of that one. 50 EMA, and it did try. It tried to buy off it too, but this was beautiful. This 1300 was beautiful. When's the market going to open? So we've got about 50 minutes till the US market opens. So obviously we're just doing a whole bunch of things. Thanks, Streamlabs, says Solo. I'm not sure what Streamlabs did, but thank you very much if you subbed there, mate. Yeah, so 50, I like that level. But yeah, where is it going now? Probably the 1400. Psychological, 50 EMA there. That would make some sense. It really, I don't think Alphabet or Google is giving us the level. What I like to do is I don't even look at the stock so much. So let's say Google. I think Google's going to come with market sentiment. So it's going to go along with whatever the Nasdaq does, whatever the S&P does. Let's just consider that. What you can do then is you can go back over to your S&P analysis, and you can say S&P hit support, I'm buying this. What you'll notice is they're all hitting technicals at the same time. Maybe Apple's hitting the 100, Google's hitting the 50 EMA, something else is hitting this, something else is hitting that. They'll all be syncing up together. And that's the beauty of it. They all sync. Then when markets get super boring, you go in and you look at the individual stocks. But generally when you're in big corrective markets, all of them will hit the supports at the same time. Thanks very much for all the subscriptions. Just another quick reminder, we've got 655. We are coming up to a stream record today. So thank you very much, everyone, for being here. We're hopefully going to be drawing this week a prize, obviously $500 given away just for being a subscriber towards the 20K. We'll be doing that just from money that we've made on YouTube ads. So I do appreciate all of the support there. We'll look at gold in just a second as well. 1.88% down now pre-market. So we're actually further selling off pre-market. Let's have a look at Tesla quickly. Is it still up? Looks like it probably will be. 2.05 went up another 0.05. The hype's so real on this stock. Nikola should be getting absolutely shredded, but probably isn't. 27%. And let's now have a look at silver and gold. Thank you very much, Blocked. I appreciate the support there. Amazon, we'll check out Amazon very soon. Ray Dalio is shorting Google for 30 million. Is that even very much for Ray Dalio? Shouldn't he put in like 400 million short? Look, he would be shorting it for quite a few valid reasons, and there are some key reasons. But I think by the time you hear he's getting out of something like that, he would have already, like, it wouldn't be when you think it is. You'll find out after the fact for sure. He might just sell it into the 50. Now, these gold, it's especially gold here and silver, are all hitting critical points. We've seen bounces off silver and gold. So let's just quickly talk about silver and the way I was looking at it coming into this week. Basically, we had body closes all around the 2650. So the 2650 was body close central. Every single time the daily got under that zone and went down to 26, it was bouncing off that and closing higher. We're now putting pressure on the 26 flat zone again. So a bearish close down here is incredibly bearish. It actually shows so much bearish sentiment, even if it just closed here, that it probably goes back into that 25 zone. There's a lot of free space here between next market structure, which is sitting at 25, resistance support. That would be quite painful. But of course, it all depends on the dollar index. I'd be looking at the dollar index more than silver and gold long-term bullishness here. Gold, very similar. 1920 has been an incredible buy zone in terms of very large structure. We were talking about quite a lot how a series of lower peaks are so negative towards the market. We also had the double rejection point here in terms of two shooting stars really after each other, or two pin bars. And this is kind of like a crazy descending triangle now. If you zoom that out and you think about it, well, we've got our strong base here at the 1920 in terms of bodies. You could probably pull it down to the wicks if you wanted to. We're sitting on a 50 EMA. It has to hold here for the bulls. If it bears off this point, it could go quite short. Now, where could it go? Usually what you'd do is you'd be drawing down like that, but you're not going to get that here, are you? Because there's just no clear peaks. The peaks didn't come up enough. So I wouldn't be probably doing that one, and that's why. But I guess you could draw through here. I don't know if I'd even do that because I like it coming from the peak. But let's just say you did the standard thing. Whenever you're doing a descending or ascending triangle, you actually, I don't know if books write it this way, but what you want to do in trading practice is you always look at just about a kind of like that 2/3 along. Never take it from the distance over here. Take it from about this point. And ideally, it breaks 1/3 before the last third of the descending wedge. And then in this case, it was basically projecting me down here. I would take that with a grain of salt, though. I wouldn't treat it very strongly because, again, it didn't come off the high. I would rather it goes peak, lower peak, lower peak, lower peak, crack through. But yeah, overall, 1920 is incredible. And then, of course, if it gets through there, you're really going back down to the 1880, 1860 zone. And you have to look more at the weekly then to get an idea. How far away are we from the 20 EMA? Still quite far. We know that the 20 EMA held it a bit on the way up. Obviously had that big sell-off during the March crash. I'd ignore it going to the 50 there. And this is sitting at 1860, so around the lows. That will still come up a little bit, be flatlining around 1860. But remember, it's all about dollar index. What you need to see here is if the dollar index cracks 93.80, there's going to be pain on gold. That's just the unfortunate fact. Do you think Google is a buy, hold, or sell just now? I think long term you'd be fine with Google. I think it depends on your time frame, on how long you want to hold this. Now, there's been so many questions coming in, so we'll definitely check out a whole bunch of those. But yeah, Google is one of those companies it's got a lot of headwinds, similar to Facebook in terms of ad revenue and all of those types of things going on right now. But from a technical perspective, obviously this 1300 is a very good zone you'd set long term for. Will we get that? Probably not. But again, I'd just be simplifying your analysis right now. US 500, dollar index, Nasdaq. And if you trade Tesla, you have to look at Tesla separately because it's sentiment driven. Got 1.97 pre-market. Wow, it's really moving now. Let's have a look at this US 100. So actually the Nasdaq is coming in. Is this actually coming in softer? Let's have a look. Or is the S&P coming in worse? Looks like the S&P is coming in worse. We'll load up our futures screen. If you don't have finviz.com, free resource, go check that out. Absolutely check it out. Nasdaq is down 1.7. So the S&P is actually fallen more. And that's driven a lot from, it looks like Europe. Europe is really getting smashed. DAX now down 3.58%. Euro stocks down 3.3%. Nikkei down 2.2%. Wow. Crude oil obviously now pulling back a little bit from its highs. Very tough trades right now, crude. Too much interference, I think, to be trading that type of stuff. Dollar index trading at 93.40. All right, let me go through some of these questions. I'm sorry I've missed so many. We have a huge room tonight, so a lot of questions. Seasonal patterns, yeah, that's definitely a thing you should look at, Jack. Seasonals will go through on a day that's not so crazy, so make sure you subscribe to the channel as well. I want to cover seasonals, I want to cover sectors, and I want to cover sector analysis into actually looking at the stocks. I think it's a cool and great concept. A lot of big investors I know use sector analysis. Do you see support at silver at 26? Blockter says, yeah, absolutely. You should see support at 26. The problem is that it has to hold it. If it doesn't hold that 26, 25 becomes very open, Blockter. That's on silver. How is Facebook looking? We'll look at that soon, Django. No worries. We already answered that question. Any thoughts on Tesla and we'll consolidate at 450? We'll relook at Tesla when the market opens, but we have already done full analysis on Tesla and we've drawn up the key zones. But we will look over it. I know it's a very popular stock right now. Amazon, we'll check that out, absolutely. Gap Boys says, this is more than a correction. Macroeconomics finally driving the market as Fed runs out of ammo. I will believe that it's more than a correction if we get through the 50 fib of the pull. Basically, we need to get under 3K for it to be a concern. Why is that? Because markets need to correct into 38.2, 50 fibs in that range. Usually 38.2 fibs should hold though. You don't want it too much lower than that, ideally. Gold equities have correlation since March. Yep, they have been correlated together because dollar index each way. Simon, so it's a good point. Waiting for AMD to fill the gap down. Let's take a look at AMD. Whew, that one had a nasty bearish looking signal on it, didn't it? So let's have a look at AMD. Wow. Nasty, nasty. So we'll load this one up. We'll go to the daily quickly. Basically, AMD was already struggling a decent amount in terms of coming off this very big move up. We know where the fortress is for AMD. We've done this quite a few times. We know that the previous break fortress high being over here, where we've got all these 58, 60 zone, is going to be a super buy zone. It's kind of like if we look at the perspective of Google before, when we had the pattern there where we had that 1300 zone. We've got so many touches to this area. Now, AMD could actually fill this zone even if market sentiment turned bullish. And that's just because of the nature of the aggressive run. Remember, this run here was very retail driven. If we look at the information coming out of retail investment, AMD became the thing to own. They had good earnings. And at the same time, we also saw a huge amount of Robinhood investors get in and pile into this particular stock. But this is the key zone down here. And if we talk about up here, we're basically already through it. Very similar to the Nasdaq, 76.68. We go down to the 4 hour and we'll see that we're through that zone, which acted, how many times did this act as support? Once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, bounced through. Right now, it looks like it's shorting off the 20. So every time it's hitting that 20, it's finding short pressure. And it's done that a few times now. 1, 2, 3. 2050 cross on the 4 hour, looking relatively bearish. Probably find some support around this 70 zone. And then if it gets through 70, it could fill down to 60 quite easily. Every day is Jerome Day, Simon. Every day. Sani says, totally agree. Very insightful graph analysis, Tom. Thanks, mate. Appreciate that. This is a good time to pick up shares like Intel and reasonable valuation. Look, Intel's one of those things that always happens in the stock. So when stock markets get less interesting than they are right now, obviously we've got pretty much volatility right now. You look at those kind of value stocks, you do your own fundamental assessment. And this is the one thing that distinctively kind of changes my opinion necessarily from other TA people's opinion. It's either technical analysis or fundamental analysis. And if you use both, you know, that's not a thing. I think use both. You get your fundamental analysis, you get your technical analysis, and you bring them both together to give you a stronger bias. So I think right now that if you're looking at Intel, yes, it's at an accumulation base, but there's potentially better quality stocks. What's Warren Buffett always say? He has some good gems. And one of his gems is that I think it's better to buy a great company at a fair price than a good company at a great price. And I think that's what Intel is doing right now. Intel is certainly not a company that is firing on all cylinders. Just look at their marketing. Terrible. Slack a good buy. A few people coming in on the Slack one. Slack has been so popular in the chat room. We've all been talking about Slack. Look, Slack is one of those things that it's a company that hasn't been on the market that long. And everybody that's been following the channel for a while will know I hate companies that have a small amount of track record. In fact, I think with tech companies, the first pretty much 18 months to 3 years is usually quite a crappy time. It comes out of the gate strong, weakens off, and then usually continues to weaken off. Look at Twitter, look at Facebook, look at Snap, look at any other tech company that's come on the market. Even that one, what's it called? Snowflake or something. It's probably going to be weak after a period of hype. Have a look at Snowflake actually a little bit later. Let's check that one out. So yeah, look, Slack had bad earnings. It isn't doing the right thing. I use Slack personally. I think it's okay. I think they need to put more improvements in. But at this point, you want to see further accumulation. Ideally, with a burnt stock, you see it do like this. This over here is a super buy kind of thing when it gets through that zone. What have you got? Beautiful volume accumulation. It creates structure. It bounces through structure. This obviously was the March crash. Don't worry about that because it wouldn't have usually happened. Usually what would happen is it goes up, comes down, tests that area, and then hopefully bulls off. That's the beautiful accumulation you want to see on those burnt stocks over time. How low do you think Apple can go? I think it can go to 100, and then if it gets through that level, it could go all the way to 80. I think that both are still relatively healthy for Apple. If SPX goes less than 3K, margin calls will be an issue. Yeah, I think there'll be a huge amount of problems under 3K, Simon. Just like they burnt everyone with the puts all the way on the way up, they're going to burn all the calls on the way down. Slack has no moat. That's a good point, Ryan. Ryan Wu says Slack has no moat. And it's something we haven't discussed much on the channel yet, but I will bring that up. Moat, an important factor in investment long term. How hard is it for a company to get taken out by another company? If it's hard, that's good. Microsoft, good luck making another Word. How many people try to make Word and Excel and all those things and failed over time? Let's bring up that the Snowflake. How's it look? Oh God, this stock. Whew. Look at those 3 days or whatever it's been in. Oh my goodness. Yeah, this is IPO heaven right now. If you can get on those IPO lists, I tell you what, bringing IPOs into the market and getting on them early and then dumping them straight away has been pretty profitable. The only problem is you think it's easy, you won't get the allocation. That's the problem you generally find. You don't necessarily get the allocation. So here we have Snow. Effectively, there's no TA on this. All I can really say is it came out hot and then it sold off. You really want to look at Twitter, Facebook, and all the rest to pull up what you can there. Another work, Google Docs. Oh, I don't think, Gary, Google Docs is cool and all, but I think you'll find that in the workplace, it's just, I don't know. I use it a bit because you can kind of share it and stuff. But again, Office 365 has been very good at combating that. Let's have a look around the markets here. We're about 34 minutes away from open. Thank you so much for the support tonight and the morning, and depending on where you are. And we're looking at 1.89% coming in for Tesla. We'll go over to our future screener, refresh this one out. It's a good way of doing pre-analysis when you just be able to go to a screener and have a look at the markets. Check the futures really quickly. See here, it's not looking too good. We go to the Forex. We can have a look there, see what's the story of the day. Obviously, US dollar strength and weakness of everything else. Gold and Bitcoin getting quite flogged. Bitcoin's right on that support level right now. We discussed that the start of the stream, and that's a pretty key level. Go over to crypto itself. Not too sure on some of these coins and the TA on them. You'd have to be a bit of into the crypto space. But look, a lot of crypto is trading quite technically right now. That being said, it's a lot of these could not be possibly around in 10 years. Like, will Litecoin always be that big? We don't know. Bitcoin's obviously got the name, and so does Ethereum and a few others. I think really blockchain is the key. Can we find a way of bringing blockchain into the real world? Silver under 26, says Jonathan. Yeah, look, it's all about closes in the confirmation world of TA. Closes mean more than wicks. Always remember that one as well. I miss Google Plus, says Chino. That was a thing. Amazon, yes, we will get onto that. Look, Snow is impossible from a TA. Anyone that thinks that this is really TA-able, yeah, you could jump into the 15 minutes, but you don't have enough data yet. You need, the whole point of TA is you're trying to use stats. Like you could say, okay, yes, we've got great support here at 220. It's bounced off 220 a whole bunch of times in the 15. It's just not enough. Check out Amazon now. Have a look at that. Amazon, we were talking about potentially getting into the 2650, if I remember rightly. In fact, I'll give Jason a shout out. I think he was talking about 2650. So Amazon is finding weakness. We're basically right on sup. We need 2,900 to hold if you're an Amazon bull. Why is that? From a TA perspective, it's our previous 2 touch holds and we're going down. Now, Amazon looks like it might even get the 2050 cross earlier than the other stocks. Let's go over to the weekly, put it in perspective. We've just hit the 20 EMA on the weekly. So we want Amazon to hold this level. This should be the strong buy zone. If it gets through this level, it really exposes previous market structure, even downwards of 2,500. There's a huge amount of selling because it moved up so fast. There's not that much structure holding it on the way down. What have we got? We've got the 200 or 50 EMA, depending on which time frame you're on, around this 2,500 zone. You've got previous market structure resistance here. And then in between here, you've just got little skerricks of it. These aren't enough to usually hold a market. So in these kind of circumstances, when you have parabolic moves and you don't even have moving averages, what can you do? Well, you can put on monthly pivots and you can also take fibs of the whole pull. And again, look for the key point, which is between the 50 and the 38.2 fib pullbacks. That's usually what I try to do. I basically go, well, damn, what do we got? We got the 20. If the 20 doesn't hold this damn thing, then it could go all the way back into this zone. And generally, that's where you'll see the markets pick up. I know 61.8's the golden fib and everything else like that, but in real market trade, this is the range that you want a healthy market to come back to. Anything under that is very bad. Do also remember with the Nasdaq, if we see Nasdaq sell any more than 20%, what does that mean? Technical bear market. We might hit, what I've noticed a few times over the last couple of years is we barely hit a bear market. Not in the, I know the S&P, but in other markets around the world, we hit like a 20.5 or a 21. We go quickly bear, and then straight into bull again. Tom, what is ideal time zone for TA on daily closes? Okay, so with daily closes, you are usually looking at New York closes. Obviously, American market, you're just looking at the close in the market. Effectively, it depends what you're trading there. But ideally, the close is right around kind of American close market of about 5 p.m., that kind of thing. Could Powell's speech tonight reverse this? It's theoretically possible. I'm not sure. Powell hasn't historically been reversing anything with his speeches, though, if we notice. Can I do workhorse? I'll take a look at it. Yep. Talk about moat, Shane says. Anyone can make a crypto coin. Yeah, that's true. Anyone can also launch crazy IPOs into the stock market right now. It seems like we're getting back to that type of thing. Sandeep, longer term for CRM and SPLK. Yes, I know about the SPLK stock. eBay, please, PE 7.5. Well, let's just quickly talk about the general broader markets. 1.78% down on, of course, the S&P. Still looking at 3220 to 3200 being key previous market structure. You can see that through this point here. 3200, very, very key level. We've got monthly pivot as well. Have I left that chart? I have left that chart. So I was talking about pivots before. If you don't use pivots in your TA, specifically in currency, you want to use daily pivots. And if you're trading stocks, I like weekly and monthly pivots. I usually like them on the S&P 500, and I don't mind them necessarily on certain big key stocks. They're not perfect for a lot of things. They're good at finding uncharted territory. So you got a new high in the market, use fib extensions and pivots. They can certainly help you out. Got the 3200 here, which is the monthly S1. We've obviously, S2 here. We've obviously got the 3200 previous resistance, which could act as support. So quite a lot of things going on there. One of my mates just messaged me. He goes, dude, nearly 800 viewers. Thank you very much, mate. And thank you everybody out there that's following along. So yeah, this monthly S2, very, very good zone. Weekly 20. I like that on the S&P for that reason. When I do my analysis on the S&P, I usually do it on SPX or something similar to this, the real market, not the futures. I like, and especially with pivots, use the real market pivots, not the futures market pivots. They will be different, potentially 20 to 30 points. Let's talk about that volume again. Massive volume into the witching hour event on Friday. Massive volume. A bit unusual it's that much volume that day. Get a lot of volume usually the day before as well. So pretty huge volumes coming in. Now, I said I'd look at a few of these. Why are banks so red? Europe. Read up about HSBC. Read up about a whole bunch of that type of stuff. Money laundering allegations. Chino has answered it. Thanks very much. Have I missed Tesla talk? You have, Chrissy, but we'll talk about it again. Don't worry. 26 minutes till the market opens. And there is a whole bunch of stuff going on. We do need to do Facebook. Let's do it. I said I would. There's a few others that we need to do as well. Keep asking questions. I know I'm missing some, but I do appreciate all the comments in the room. It's really great. So we've got here a 300 obviously hit. We all know that. Weekly again. I keep crapping on about the 20 EMA. Here is an interesting point as well. We've got 20 EMA found support during, I think this was when everyone was worried about the ad revenue for Facebook, and obviously a few high profile companies said, oh, we won't use you for the next 2 months pretty much. And then we've got here previous kind of 20 is being tapped. Now, importantly here, 240, notice this point, previous resistance closes on the weekly, barely got through and then came down. So this 20 moving average, I would be drawing like a zone. Instantly when I look at this chart, I basically go, okay, I've got a range that I'm very interested in rectangling up. I like this area straight away. Why do I like that? I like previous resistances on the weekly, and I like that 20 as well, and I like all that range. Again, we'll do a quick check, very similar to what we did before, which is a fib of the whole move. We want to see if we're getting into the range of a nice healthy pullback yet, and that will be the bottom of this bar is the 38.2. We know 38.250 is good. 50 would be crazy. 220, previous resistance, 50 EMA, previous resistance over here. That would be psycho. So we'd probably set a few alerts here for Facebook at different areas. And I would also be doing a bunch of fundamental analysis on this particular stock because I think it's worthwhile. But yeah, that's the kind of thing I'd be doing on the weekly. That's the way I would be pricing it up. I delete off that fib, go down to the daily, take a look at this thing. I love the structure through this point, through this 240 into 245. Again, no 2050 cross, nothing to worry about there. Last time 2050 cross was ages ago. Obviously crisis and then pickup. Have not seen any real bullish intent here yet, but certainly a lot of structure, which was resistance, which should act as support through this area. That'd be my analysis on Facebook just briefly. No stimulus equals slow meltdown, with Julian says. Look, I think the stimulus is, we need to see some stimulus, probably Congress stimulus, really. They need to deal with that. We need checks. Everyone needs checks. And more than one reason. I'm sure people are really suffering. You know, I'm sure a lot of people in this stream, we've got potentially jobs or at least got some money, but there's no doubt a lot of suffering out there due to this type of stuff. Cheers to you, Bruce. Big buying pre-market doesn't mean a green day. What about pre-market sell-off? I don't particularly care about futures much either way. Pre-market sell-off often, I don't really think there's a strong correlation there. Often gets bought up pretty fast. Or the thing is that you could go 50-50 on it. The biggest thing really in the market that's fairly predictable is continuous selling at the end of the day of the US market is strong bearish sentiment. We saw that last week. Sell off, sell off, sell off. And guess what? JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, all our friends coming out again. And then they said basically straight away that they were all like, oh, you know, the shorting's over. Don't worry about it. And then, of course, it sells through. Don't worry, Mick, I'm not answering that political question. I don't get into the politics. But reminding me of politics, we will be doing a full finance American election day stream. I'm planning on going between 12 and 14 hours. We'll basically have a couple of guests on as well. Should be a great day. I'm going all day on that day. It is one of the funnest days to be watching the markets. Crazy stuff happens. When Trump got elected, that was a wild, wild Asian session. Asian into European session was crazy. And of course, the beauty of it is it all happens in the futures on that day. We'll go back over quickly, have a look at, of course, the markets. We'll refresh these up. We've got now 22 minutes coming into the market, so quite a lot of anticipation here for the event. 1.75 Nasdaq has come up a little bit, it looks like. 1.49 down. VIX is still kind of going up, though, it looks like. We'll take a look at the analysis there again. And still further US strength. That was 93.30 something, I think, at the start of this stream. Rockman says, love the streams. No worries. Absolutely. I love having so many people that pay attention, and obviously we're all learning together. That's great. Can I check out Vail? Probably won't look too much at Vail, but I do know that it's a competitor to a lot of Australian stuff. Let's load up a couple of other charts. There were some other ones we're meant to be looking at. What about Apple? Yeah, 7 critics, we've definitely done Apple. So we're still looking at $100 as main support for Apple. Just want to check out this euro for a second here and just show you how we're testing this multi-level support zone right now in the euro. Look at this, 117, this area, support, 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 body closes. Now notice I draw it to the body close. Body closes mean the most. Body close, wick buy, couple of weeks into that zone. They're the key points. Should use this arrow. There we go. So very, very key. Do we break through this straight away into the market open or even pre-market open? That's pretty big, because if we get through this support, we're effectively saying that the US dollar is super strong. Remember, euro and US dollar, they're very correlated with each other. The US dollar index is predominantly made up of euro. So even if you're a stock fan, this particular chart matters a lot in some ways. And of course, dollar index is certainly worthwhile looking at. Dollar index still bulling up. We've got pretty strong movement here. 93.45. We're basically coming off that strong base of 92.80 today. Broke through easily, and we're going all the way back up here. Now, if we crack this 93.64, we pretty much instantly go straight 93.80. And then 93.80 break above there, super bullish. Some people would even be drawing this as inverse head and shoulders with a crazy large bottom left shoulder. So they might be saying, okay, left shoulder, head, right shoulder. Either way, there's a super amount of thought process that's gone into this. And obviously we break high. That's very, very bullish for dollar and pretty bearish for markets. Cruise lines tanking. Yeah. Cruise line, I saw that pre-market. We had cruise lines tanking. We don't often see a lot of other things. I love this. Elon's become such a man of the people. Embrace tunnels, and he gets 116k likes. It's pretty funny. So still looking at S&P, looks like it's coming in the weakest here. Dollar index. Let's go over to Tesla, have a look how that's going. Had the battery day, still up 2%. Maybe up a bit more now when it eventually loads. Okay, so we're actually only 1.28%. Let's have another look at Tesla. We have the key lines drawn here. We talked about how previous resistance, the 455 here, could act as resistance today. We drew the fib of the pullback. We talked about how if this is a blow-off event, basically it goes between the 61.8 and the 786 fib. If we break high here into the battery event, then come back down, retest this, lightning bolt on a small time frame, we should be able to hit 500 resistance. This is like a gap zone fill really for Tesla. Obviously previous resistance, previous support, previous resistance, all key zones here, 420. So we've got 455, 420, 500, and then really back down into the previous kind of support zone, which is that 340, 330 area. They're the key kind of technical zones that we're looking at. But super sentiment driven, as Simone says, or Simon. Sorry, it must be Simon. Shane says, Tesla testing the 450 pre-market. Absolutely. Testing that pre-market. Remember, I don't have a full screen on this particular computer for everything right now. So I'm just working on that so we can go, when we go live, we can basically load up a whole bunch of flash screens that I can show everyone. Working on a few improvements there for the stream as well for everybody. Gold, please. Yeah, well, look, we looked at gold. We talked about that. I assume it's cracking lower right now. I think it's this one. We've got gold and silver on. Load that quickly. We'll talk about put ratios in just a minute as well. Let's bring that gold on again. So silver hit its sup at the 26. It's found some support. Gold, obviously that 1920, you need that to hold if you're a bull. Gold has some serious bearish sentiment back into the 1865. But if you have a look here, the 50 EMA, all of this zone across here has been buying pressure with body closes generally at around what that 1927. So you need bullish movement here for gold and for silver. It has to hold the line. It's kind of like Game of Thrones right now. It must hold the line. Barrick gold. Buffett's Barrick. But Buffett bought it and then went down. That's not cool. Yeah, so basically it's still looking relatively fine. I mean, gold stocks overall, if you actually look at them, and this is what people have a misconception of thinking about, that when the market goes, bad, gold stocks go up. Well, if we have a look here during the GFC period, this stock was all over the place. Then notice it tops out a few years after. Generally, gold doesn't have like a good long-term investment period. It usually has like crazy periods of great investment, and then you get the hell out and run away from it. If you actually have a look, sometimes it has like 2 or 3 years of burst and then goes through. If you go back to 70s data, you'll pull even more. Gold miners are very different as well than owning gold themselves. Barrick has crazy support though at 22. Imagine if it got back to 22. Previous resistances all acting as support. That would be a awesome level. I don't think we're going there, but it'd be an awesome level. Go down to the weekly here, though. Everything looks fine. I mean, basically, we're just in a tight trade range. You'd go into a smaller time frame, draw up your horizontal support resistance, and just you'd be in a tight trade range between 28.40 and I don't even know if I'd look at that outlier day, probably around this 30.80 zone, 31. Tight trade range, looks fine. Nothing wrong there. Netflix, and we want to look at Nvidia actually as well. I ordered one of those new graphics cards. I'm not going to get one, I can tell. It's out of stock everywhere or whatever. I should have got some connection for them. 470 holding on Netflix, which is pretty good. That's a key sup. Previous resistance over here, 450, but key sup, key sup, key sup. Looks good so far. 2050 cross coming in very, very tight here. This is crazy if it breaks low. Let's have a look at the weekly. All right, so we hit weekly 20. Obviously, Netflix remains at 400 is super crazy buy zone in terms of where it got to. Netflix has problems. I mean, they've got obviously all their shows in the pipe right now, but I'm sure they've got recording and cost issues coming in. Long term, though, I'm sure they're fine. Nikola, $25. Yeah, that's right, Ifty. Nikola not looking so good. Unfortunately, now someone can probably post it, but I believe there was something about the CEO of Nikola ran away or quit or something. Is that true? Thoughts on Nvidia? Let's load that one up. Yeah, I said I would. Check out Nvidia. Should be still pretty high. This stock is crazy though. The move, big move. Still very far away from its 20, which has me concerned. I like the company a lot. I've talked about how I like the company a lot. The new graphics cards are well ahead, of course, it looks like, of the competition. It's been finding good structure here. It's a very, very popular stock with retail sentiment as well. Overall, I still think it could have quite a large move down. I'm not touching this one myself, but I'm sure there's some value in there somewhere. I would prefer to see it at least back to the 20. That's just me. I just like to see stocks not go parabolic. And if you're in them, that's cool. But when they have these big blow-off events, notice how this market had this crazy week of crazed volatility, 588 down to 471, $100 range. To me, that seems very blow-offy. 12 minutes here till open. We definitely need to do a bit quick of a market look. Jeremiah, thank you very much. CZK 100. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. You've activated the Kramer. Can I do Tesla and Microsoft? We haven't done Microsoft. Yeah, Nvidia is very tough. I mean, obviously there's SUP here at 467. We know because it bought off it, but so far away from the 20. So far away from proper correction on that big run. We also talked about how Nvidia's CEO, he's been dumping stock hard. It's a lot of insider negative transactions going on in Nvidia right now. Let's have a look at Microsoft. We've got 11 minutes now to the bell, so not too long now till we get this market open and we see what it's all about. First 15 minutes to half an hour has traditionally been quite volatile. We've usually seen buying pressure come into the start. It's a lot of buy the dip kind of sentiment. I've noticed as well there's a decent amount of bearish sentiment coming into a lot of people's thought process at the moment. Comes down to put call ratios as well. Might be worth considering. If we see puts increase heavily, so we see puts basically go nuts and more people buying them and they go out of whack, what do we know happens? Generally the opposite of what a lot of people are doing. So yeah, with Microsoft, it's really been a case of the 200 holds strong, and then if it gets through, sells off, back down to the 190. I don't see a huge amount of moves outside of that. I think Microsoft's core business and earnings are pretty solid. Obviously, it's been insane. The thing with Microsoft that always surprises me is I remember trading back in here, 2012, 11 and stuff, and everyone was bored of this stock. I mean, they were bored of it. They weren't doing anything. That was back when Barmer was running it. And over here, we've obviously now seen a full month taken off this stock, but it kind of still remains that the 190 is a good level. Look at the weekly, hitting the weekly 20. We get through there, we go back down to the 180, 190 zone. There's not really too much to say about this stock right now. Not a huge amount of technicals, other than just holding 200. 9 minutes till the market open right now, which is pretty exciting. Let's have a look at the metals just quickly. Both testing lows still. Gold testing 1920. It's actually a little bit under that now. And of course, silver testing at 26. It's really putting pressure on there. You'd want to dial into the smaller timeframes as well and have a look at what's going on in the smaller timeframes. Let's talk about put call ratios quickly. We've got, of course, put call ratios definitely increasing. SPX put call ratios 1.71 now, which is pretty damn high. That's getting up there. If you go through the market stats, there is a website that you can just put in put call ratio. And if you load up Y charts, I'm not going to pay for this particular thing, but you can even see it in the background. Shows you the data ranges. It's a bit of a trick. You can just load it and have a look anyway. This gives you a bit of history, but yeah, this particular website, I think they always harass you for cookies. 1.71, 1.85, so you see those numbers are quite a lot higher. Remember, on this stream, I do like to use free resources as much as possible. I do appreciate if anyone in the community sends us at support@fxevolution.com any websites that you use that are free that you think are good to share with others, and then I can bring them up. I can't show a lot of paid apps. This is obviously the CNN, whatever you want to call it, Fear Greed Index. I particularly like it because it shows you a whole bunch of different kind of oscillators. We've seen those puts rise up. Obviously, the higher the puts get, the more likely it is that that won't occur. And we're seeing Fear Greed Index really start dropping off from those 80 highs. There's another good... this oscillator actually works relatively well with current sentiment in the markets. 8 minutes coming in. Let's do a refresh on what's happening. So we're seeing a bit of a pullback in the Nasdaq, as in it's moving up. Obviously, still a bloodbath in Europe. Look at those candles. Ooh, nasty. Nasty candles here across the board. Just want to remind everybody, got a whole bunch of new viewers in here. We are giving away $500 on the way to 20,000. So when we get 20,000 subs, if you're a subscriber, we're giving away $500 to a lucky viewer to put towards, of course, their trading account, or really whatever they want to do, whether it's coffees or something else. And they can do that with that money. Gold, silver, platinum, copper, all down. US dollar up. That's really the one we're looking at. US dollar up. And if you're a VIX trader, you're still pretty happy with the 31.40. BTC still par. What's happened now? Is BTC under 10.5 yet? Someone tell me in the chat room if it's under 10.5. I don't think so though. Let's have a look here at 33. So we'll basically go through our thought process on the two major indices, and we'll look at the Dow as well into the open. So we've got here the S&P 500. We've spoken about this a whole bunch on the channel if you've watched the videos, and we've obviously talked about the 3200 zone being pretty key. We've talked about the big fib on the whole thing pullback, which is key as well, and the fact that we're basically in a channel break low. Now, if we take the distance of a channel, if you're not familiar with what a channel is, I'll pop in the room in just a second, actually. Let me pop it in there right now. You can absolutely get a free cheat sheet that we made that just of some of the, I guess, best patterns. So if you want to get on that one, I'll pop that in there right now. You can check that out. So there's just a quick cheat sheet that if you want to get it for free, you can check that out. Now, in terms of the channel overall, what's it predicting? Well, you generally take kind of the high point, which is this 3420 zone, and you take the 3300 zone down here, 3310. You take the distance between those two, and you want to see if they line up with previous market structure. So the idea is that if it breaks through, it should usually go the distance. Now, where's the distance to? 3200 flat. It should go down to that point. So 3200 flat is pretty much where we've seen previous resistance as well and previous support. It's a key psychological zone. It makes a lot of sense in the market. So really, this is triggering, this close, if it holds today on the real market, is triggering 3200 flat potentially. S&P 500, that's the way we look at it. And the Nasdaq is very similar. Julian says Ethereum, Bitcoin, gold are all in pullback. That's because of dollar strength. So you're looking at it all compared to dollar. You need to look at it, obviously, do a whole bunch of currencies as well. But I assume they're all pulling back a decent amount. Ryan says CSL, question mark. CSL is a great company, Ryan. That's a big healthcare company in Australia. Biggest company now on the exchange. Since the banks all fell, it's become the biggest. So Nasdaq is very, very similar. We've got the fib drawn here. We'll get rid of this just quickly. Remove that. Have a look at what we've got here. So we still have a decent amount of structure break into 10.4. We've talked about the previous support down here. And of course, the channel break. Distance of the channel, again, it becomes the self-fulfilling prophecy. The beautiful thing about candles or channels or any of the TA is what you're doing is you're putting it a self-fulfilling prophecy together based on market structure. So you've got the supports and the resistances, and that becomes the self-fulfilling area. Long positions move at a snail's pace, but short position moves pretty fast. Shorting market, hope market goes down heavily today, says Yusin Vision. Yeah, look, absolutely. Markets go super fast, obviously, to the short side. They'll always go way faster short than long. Even in currency, you often see the sell side happens faster than the long side, which makes no sense because you're pinning a currency to each other. US dollar at 10 cents from a new high, says Max. Yep, US dollar is definitely one of the stories of the day to be looking at. When we get the market open, we'll obviously see some of the stocks that are going hard. US dollar is pumping. When you least expect it, something happens, yeah? So I think we'll probably come in on, we'll bring them both together now. Let's do that. So let's bring together the Nasdaq and the S&P 500. We'll load up the Nasdaq futures and the S&P 500 futures right now. Load them up coming into the bell. 3 minutes now, pretty exciting. Definitely want to see what happens in the first half an hour of trade into Powell, and we'll see what Powell has to say and go from there. So really, we're still finding a decent amount of selling pressure coming into these markets. We'll jump down to the smaller time frames. Let's get into probably a 15-minute time frame. Maybe do a bit of a deep dive into the time frames as well. Let's have a look at what this market structure's been. So it's been in a bit of a holding pattern. Let's draw up some little sup here on the 15. Now, you'll know if you've been watching the channel for a while, I actually don't like the 15 that much. But yeah, we actually are trading a little range here. Trading a little range here on the old Nasdaq on the right-hand side. Let's now get this US 500 up. That's also trading in a bit of a range, not maybe as defined as that Nasdaq in terms of body closes. I like body closes the most on most time frames. Very, very important. So 2 minutes into the bell, let me just prepare a few things over here. Thank you everybody that's here. Got a big number hitting all-time highs for today's stream, so that's great. Remember to subscribe and of course hit the like if you can. We're drawing a prize at 20,000 subs as well. We're giving away $500 just for being a subscriber. So definitely consider that. Can we look at pound dollar? RC says, yep, I'll do that for you, RC, later. Definitely later. You'll have to wait around a little while though. We'll look at Square as well. Let me write down a few of these. So we're coming into the open here. Here we go. 30 seconds countdown into the open. Brian says he's obviously looking at the smaller time frames. That range is doing my head in all Europe morning. Yep, these ranges certainly are holding these markets back at this point. You want to be drawing up your ranges. It's not a bad little range here on the 15 minutes that we're seeing. I mean, it's pretty defined, especially to the resistance side on the pre-futures. All right, here we go. We got the bell. So we're open and we're off to the races, I guess you could say. I keep forgetting how annoying that bell is, but I thought I'd play it anyway. Hopefully everyone did hear that. That work MC, the bell come through. So it looks like we're finding a little bit of buying support here, but pretty much it'll be all over the place. We've trapped this range. AMD snuck back above resistance, Siddharth says. All right, well, let's have a look. Still trapped. I think we should watch this for a few minutes here. Should look, because we are seeing a volatile day. We do want to watch this. Over here, we've got dollar index. We can see it's trading at 93.46. Pretty key. My ears. Yeah, your ears will bleed off the bell. That's a real recording with clapping in the background. It's the best one I can find. It's a hideous sounding thing, but anyway. Iconic bell. We've got that open and we're still trapped within these ranges, but I do think they're worth looking at. So I think we should actually stick here for a little while and you can listen to my voice a little bit while we watch this one together. Speedo loves the bell. Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with the bell. Don't worry. When I was finding recordings, there were some bad ones, that's all. Was it that loud? Oh, sorry guys. First time we whipped out the bell. It was obviously a bit loud. All right, here we go. Buying pressure coming in here on the Nasdaq, coming up to the resistance highs. That's why we want to be looking at this. We do have this little trap here. Obviously, we want to come back 15-minute closes and have a look. Oh, can we get through these wicks? Oh, little sell. Little sell as it hits that wick. Testing it again. We're through in terms of a new high, at least wick point. Remember, closes and TA are the most important things. Wicks suck. Don't ever use a wick. Think of every candle as a fight between bulls and bears. They're basically having a war. And until they close it at a point, everything can change. I'm sure we've all been there. We've all been there where the market goes long. And then you think, yes, that's long. And then it goes full rejection. And then all of a sudden, you've got a bloody pin bar sitting there, fully rejecting. And you think, why did I go long? Why didn't I just wait for that confirmation? I got super burnt. So there is some buying pressure coming in here. As I said, I'm not surprised that we're getting buying pressure in the morning. Asian session was weak. There's a lot of bullish sentiment still in these markets. So retail usually trades the first hour, and obviously the big ones trade the last hour. The last hour is the most important day or important time in the day for stock traders in terms of getting sentiment. Lynn says my whole family could hear that bell. All right, we'll definitely keep that bell down next time. Sinister Pigeon Boy, 0 Fs given to the dislike button today. Well, that's good. Hopefully we don't get too many dislikes. We do have a random hater though. It comes in every single time I release a video. 1 second dislike. It's either a robot or it's my biggest fan in terms of a hater. So we're still within the range. We'll revisit this point. Let's go over and have a look at the rest of the market. We focused on that one for long enough. Let's have a look at Tesla. Let's have a look at Apple. Let's see these stocks come in. So Tesla's testing the high here. We've got that 455 hype day, battery day. Check the video tomorrow morning. We'll be talking about Tesla as well. But a lot of these points will be mentioned. So close here is important for sentiment. Will we bust this high or will we sell back down and find the 420 low? I think both areas here are going to be key. We get to the 420, there will be buying pressure here. People want this stock in anticipation of profits. I think there's a lot of trade in here though. I will say that. And that's why a few people are saying buy the rumor, sell the fact before. That was their thought process as well. Dollar index still very, very strong. 93.50 kind of holding those highs. Let's have a look at Facebook, Apple, a few of the big FANG stocks. We'll load up the screener in a few minutes as well. Check that one out. Okay, so Facebook's opened up 2% down. It's testing the top of the box range that we had before. Very, very interesting. Obviously, to be expected, I guess, after the big moves here. Apple is finding buy support. So this was down to 103. What was it? 103.22 in futures trading. Not quite the 100. Be weird for it to stop here. Remember, if we drew the fib of the whole move, if I remember rightly, there was a 38.2 fib right on the 103. 103.50. Check Roku. We'll take a look at Roku. Sure. It's a pretty popular stock. Well, that's looking pretty bullish, isn't it? All right, let's have a look at the monthly on this thing. Now, a lot of things that I like to do in terms of TA is always look at the monthly, down to the weekly, down to the daily, and get your ideas of what the market's doing. Got the weekly here. Obviously, that is a super level, 172 in terms of previous resistance touches. Stupid magnetic. All right, so we've got that 172 up here. Looks like we've got a super amount of touches. Resistance almost gets there, finds resistance. Resistance again sells off, but this time it makes a series of course, higher lows as it's going up. Looks pretty bullish. Usually with these, they break fairly aggressively and they always usually give you the second kind of buy touch. But yeah, that's a bullish sentiment in terms of what's going on. Series of higher lows all the way up into it. Nice. Baba, yeah, we'll check that one out. We've looked at this quite a few times in terms of on this channel. Taking a look at it. We still got that strong structure around 260 we talked about. We actually were live streaming, if I remember rightly, as it broke through this last time, 220. It's a tough one, this Barber, because when you're looking at it and you think, well, would I rather have this or Amazon? And Amazon's starting to get cheap. The fact is, though, there's 266 previous resistance support, 50 EMA on the daily. All of these things that point to support. I don't like it that much. I just don't like it because of where it's currently sitting and considering the other stocks that are out there. But yeah, it's at the zone. Let's have a look back over in our 15-minute time frames here. What have we got going on? So there we go. There was a wick high. What again does it say? Nothing. A stupid wick high might have taken out somebody's buy order because they put a little pending order up here and they didn't wait for the close. And look, it's happened to me. I've done this. I've done the wick pending. But here we've got bearish sentiment coming into the markets again. All right, so it looks like the first 15 minutes are pretty fireworksy here. 7 minutes in, and we've already reversed the highs, and we're testing the supports, and the S&P's through the support. It's cranking it. Thanks very much to the chat room for letting me know that straight away. Nvidia popped, says Eric Cartman. Nice name, bro. Using the super like. Thank you very much, Webb. Very, you always comment. Appreciate that in the videos. Hi, Tom. Look at Apple's volume 6 times Feb March. It's a true high def. That high, is it? Wow. Makes sense, though. Got a huge amount of trade volume coming in. We've got a monster position now as well in terms of how big that company is. But retail sentiment is all over Apple. I can't imagine how many people have been buying that on the way down. So we've got here pressure being put on the shorts. We'll come and revisit this. Remember, 15-minute close. We'd love to see what happens there. S&P certainly putting pressure to the downside. Let's have a look at dollar index, see if that's been bulling a little bit more. We're putting resistance pressure on the dollar index. 93.60. The previous kind of close up here was this 93.64. Wow, we may be seeing a point where we're actually testing the 50 EMA very soon on the daily. We test that, we break that. That is super bullish intent for the dollar. Suddenly, we're talking dollar strength, something that I'm sure many people in the chat room did not think was possible a few weeks ago. There's a lot of beautiful accumulation down here, but it all rests on one key zone, and that's this 93.84, previous resistance, 50 EMA into 94. We're going to see a break, come down, little lightning bolt up. That is the way we want to see it. Dollar index strength. Nice to see it finally moving. And it'll tank our Australian dollar. If I get a super chat in American dollars, I'm suddenly getting paid so much more. So many more coffees for me in Australia here. Tesla here is still trading at 1.23% open high. If we go over, we want to load up nickel. I'd love to see what's happening there just because it was getting crushed pre-market. So let's have a look what happened with that one on the open. Were people, people are buying it. No. This stock, tell you what, it's got, but look at these volumes coming through. Crazy volume gap up high, obviously off the GM news, and then pretty big volumes every day since then. A lot of trading going on here, a lot of movement. See that euro, see if that's cracked that sup, just because we're talking about dollar index, and then we'll go into a few other things. Now, a few people have been saying crypto got a bit bashed up. This surely should be a bit lower by now, shouldn't it? So Euro's still holding that sup. Okay, interesting. We will revisit that a little bit later. Let's have a look at Google, see if that's getting punished down. S&P 3250, says the room. Max says Square. Yeah, we'll look at that. So we're coming in for Alphabet. Alphabet's getting towards that 50 EMA. Wow. There we go, 2.1% down. Let's have a look at Square, another stock that has been bought very heavily over this crisis period. Still really hasn't had a proper correction. Still think it should come down more. So had that big blow-off event. Actually looks just like a Nvidia candle there in terms of the high and the low all in the same point. Very symptomatic of blow-offs really. Coming back down to previous structure, we hit the 134s. We're trading 140 now. I'd expect further downside pressure here potentially down to the 134. Find some sup there. Obviously gets through there. 120 maybe, just because it's a psychological level. Like there's a $10 there. I mean, really, you've got your 20 EMA on the weekly and the 120. You draw a fib of this one. This, if it does corrective phase move, which usually stocks do, comes into the 38.2 in the 50 zone. 38.2, that's a 120 kind of handle, really. I mean, I know it's sitting at 117, but it might wick down there. But it's all pointing towards more bearish stuff. And that looks blow-offy. Certainly does. There's a lot of stocks here that deserve to be a little bit lower. Not saying they're not good long-term either. I'm just thinking that they've had some big moves. You know, you put it in perspective, it's crazy. Let's load up this future screener here. So we've got 2.24 down on the Russell. It's getting punished. These are a little bit delayed now. VIX obviously still spiked fairly high. Go over to Forex and crypto. Let's have a look at crypto just quickly here. So Bitcoin still holding 10.5, is that right? Should be. Bring up this screener for a little bit later. We'll check out that very, very soon. Let's go back over. We've got 3 minutes till the 15-minute close here on our little trap channels. We seem to be trading within the range on the Nasdaq, big wicks either side, no body close there, and body close coming in potentially on the US 500 to the sell side. So 2 minutes till this one closes. Copper down, says Philip. Is copper down much though, or is copper just down a little bit? We'll check that out in a few minutes as well. Getting copper on this chart now, I've dropped it, is a bit annoying. For anyone that doesn't know, you can search copper trading view on Google, and then that will come up with the copper chart. I don't know why, but you can't search it inside of trading view. So if you want a copper chart, little tip, copper trading view brings it up instantaneously. You can come in here. Look, this isn't really a concern at all for copper price. That's certainly not a sell-off. It's back into previous resistance actually. This should act as a sup for copper. But yeah, not very worried about copper at these points. I'm really only worried for copper if it gets under 2.8. Thanks very much for subscribing there, Mary. Appreciate that. Cryptos are free falling. Okay. Let's have a look at the watch list here. Might be some other cryptos that are free falling. Let's have a look at CoinMarketCap just to load it up. Have a look. Is CoinMarketCap still the done thing? Overall, these aren't crazy moves for crypto, are they? Chainlink. This stock's psych. This particular coin's crazy coin. A few mates were trading that one. But yeah, overall, these are pretty normal moves. So how are we looking? We've got now only a few more seconds, 20 seconds till we get these closes. Nasdaq straight in the middle, wicked either side. New portion low here as well, which would have taken out pendings to the short side. It's very painful, very annoying, that kind of thing. But that's why you always look for the close. Looks like S&P is trying to pull up into the sup, at least pull up into the wick here, which it did. Find sell pressure straight away. There's a bunch of that pretty much proves there was a whole bunch of orders sitting there trying to sell it through, and there's buying coming in as well. So they came in straight after, like a second after we saw sell orders come through. Someone probably trying to manipulate the candle a little bit. Don't trust copper too much for economy indication. China is stockpiling it at the moment and ditching their dollars. Yeah, I'm aware of that. Yeah, we were talking about it just before, actually. I still think that it's relatively good. Kartik says, inside trading view, you can just type copper and hit enter. Don't bother to select from drop down, and it's not list and drop down. There we go. That may work. Thank you very much. Interesting, we're seeing the S&P find further weakness than the Nasdaq right now. So Nasdaq's testing back at the 10.8 again. 10.8 finding some resistance here. And S&P's basically just trading the little bit to the low here. I do expect the first hour to be relatively bullish. We have had a very bearish Asian session, and we do have a lot of buying sentiment coming through still. Bitcoin's right on sup still, previous resistance acting as support, but it did hit that very key kind of 11,200 zone just before it sold off. If you're talking about Bitcoin long here, really it gets back through this high. I wouldn't be surprised at all for it to go straight into 12,000. The banks seem to be getting hammered. It doesn't surprise me. Australian banks were down today as well when we were looking at those. So we got JP Morgan Chase down 3%. That's not good at all in terms of TA. Look at that. It's getting belted really. Back down. All of these lows, it really hasn't had much of a recovery. Banks are going to be super hard to pick which ones are going to go well, or even anything really over the next decade. They could be more of a, yes, they've got profit, yes, they've got income for you, but maybe that's about it. So Bank of America, old Buffett's company, his favorite. Let's have a look at that on a weekly just to see where it really is here. You know, it's just gapped low, down 2.26%. Kind of back on, pretty much where Buffett was buying it. Wasn't he buying it around in these levels? I think around this 23, 24. Do I trade Aussie stocks? Absolutely, Matthew. Yep. Yeah, we do a lot of work in Australian stocks, but realistically, we just don't have the market like America does. America has a great market. Shout out to Americans out there. You have the best market in the world. Absolutely, you do. And everyone wants to always list on the American Stock Exchange. Nvidia finding decent amount of support, now only down 0.51. We will go over to a whole bunch of different things. Should I sell QQQ at 1-ish% loss with the bounce back Friday? The Strawberry Fields, it really depends on, I can't give you advice. Obviously, I talk about TA here and I try to show people the way I look at things, but you've got to make your own decisions. Realistically, you've got to think what's your plan. If your plan is that you would not like a 3% down, you couldn't handle it, then yeah, potentially. I mean, basically, we're coming into pretty important kind of week of Powell, if you want to look at it that way, and that's all happening very, very soon. Now, we should have the open board meeting soon, shouldn't we? So let me just load that beast up, see what's going on here. Well, that's very cool. Open board meeting. Everyone should be able to hear that. People disliking it already. I'll mute that one up and I should have that ready for everybody very soon. Excellent. The open board meeting. Hi Tom, I trade ASX on ComSec. What do you recommend to trade New York Stock Exchange? Well, I think it's always worthwhile starting at the beginning of the indices and then going to blue chips. And then I like blue chips and indices the most. Nasdaq, I'm not really a big fan of penny stocks, as Americans will call them, or we call them. What do we call them? I've forgotten. Brain hiccup there. But yeah, penny stocks I don't like. They're not great on TA. And I prefer risk reward is the biggest thing when it comes to market investments. You always want to think, if I buy a penny stock, I consider it gone. It's all gone. If I put 10K in it, it's gone. And then if it goes well, great. But I consider it going to zero every time. Whereas like Apple, I'm going to buy it, let's say at $100. I don't think that thing's going to zero. I think it might go down 20 or 30%, but never to zero. And therefore you can allocate risk reward with that kind of thing. Got here a bit of buying pressure coming into this Powell stuff. We've got 10,840 now on the Nasdaq, still showing a lot more strength than the S&P. And that's because when we look at the futures here and we load up these tabs, look at this. Red, energy still getting bashed, banks getting bashed. We have Berkshire Hathaway still getting bashed a bit. Healthcare plans overall getting bashed. A whole bunch of these market sectors not doing well. Travel, of course, down, resorts, all of those types of things. You know, long term, if you can pick up things like Wynn and all these resort casinos, realistically, these should do well during high unemployment. So if we get out of this crisis and we still have high unemployment, be very similar to a McDonald's play from that aspect. Tobacco is still relatively calm. And of course, Walmart up. Oracle still up. Moving off that news. AMD up, surprisingly. And the rest is red. Put this in a bit of perspective as well. If we look at 1 year performance and you overlay this, if you don't use finviz.com right now, you definitely should check that out. But you can see here the heat map. Putting in perspective, Wells Fargo is one of the worst. Exxon, once the largest stock in America, am I right? Now just getting crushed. And it's all, Google's still a very bad performer in terms of the FANG stocks, just to put it in perspective. Apple, of course, with the biggest move. 9 minutes here until we'll move over to the other one. Strawberry Fields forever. Thanks, Tom. Value investing plus TA, way to go. Thank you very much for the Hong Kong 38. I do love Hong Kong as well. Thank you very much. You've activated the Kramer there. And don't worry, Kramer loves every stock. So I've seen on TV. Yeah, so the way to go is definitely looking at high, not necessarily value investing, but you're buying high quality stocks at good TA prices. Bring together all of it together. So we'll be starting here in 8 minutes. We should have a whole bunch of other stuff. I do appreciate all the support today. Big stream, which has been great. Yeah, so always put things in perspective. A great way of doing that is this. And remember, FinViz has a whole bunch of these things like forward PE ratios, a whole bunch of different stuff you can set here. You can even set by div yield. I like forward PE. It still does work usually during normal periods. We can see here, do we think these are obscene PEs? And that one might be, but overall, not too crazy. Intel obviously trading at a crazy low PE, forward PE ratio. Banks trading very low, probably deserve to be. And then the rest of it. During a crash, though, it's obviously very, very difficult. Interesting, you can look up analyst recommendations here as well. And if you look at one other thing that you can do in FinBiz all the time, and I like to do, is just to quickly check your insider transactions. You get so much information here, reiterations of all the upgrades. Remember, never use one of these people. My God. These people, all we use these for is one reason, and that is that we know that when they do fundamental analysis, all of the workers for all these companies use these reports to invest their clients' money, and they say, hey, Nvidia just got upgraded to 650. We should buy it at 600. That's what you're doing. You're getting the average of them all. But yeah, basically my big problem with Nvidia is there is some massive selling by the CEO. Look at this. He always exercises, but he's exercising a ton more recently. Kim Lim says, one of my favorites, the Disney, is down. That's all right. Can it come down more, Kim? Yeah, I do like Disney. Copper still falling a little bit there. Let's take a look back at these markets. We've got 6 minutes until Powell comes in. I've lost track of a few things here, so we've got to bring them all up. Just a quick reminder as well, if anybody wants a free trading cheat sheet and they're interested in taking a look at that, I'll chuck that in the room. You can definitely download that for free. And it has like a whole bunch of different patterns on it that you might want to learn about the markets for TA. Nikola now only down 15%. Let's load up Disney quickly, have a look at that, and we'll jump back over to the other markets. So Disney coming back down to earth. It really does deserve to do so. I'm bullish, obviously, on this long term. Everyone knows that one. But they have very similar problems to Netflix's issues. Looking forward to that Mandalorian season 2. I believe that's coming out very soon. That'll be all right. Let's have a look here. Horizontal line. Disney remains the 120 area is delish because previous resistances across the board, all very nice pattern technique structure. We didn't get it during, of course, the crisis period, and that's because the technicals went out the door a little bit during a crash like this. This was obviously, not even fundamental. It was just everything driven. It's crisis driven, fear driven. When you have fear driven markets, you've got to be very careful with trying to, grab the falling knife. Usually what you'll see is you'll never usually see this kind of thing. You usually see the market dive, structure up, form some form of base, and then bounce off, and usually double test the base to rip a whole bunch of people off. This time we had the Fed. So yeah, we've got the buy support around this 125, 20 and 50. It's certainly a great key zone. And then underneath that, the 120, two very nice levels on Disney. Get back over into the chat here. Apple's turned green, says Rahul. Yep. There's overall, we've got a whole bunch of wicks outside of these ranges. Still body ranged on the 15 here. Coming into the next 15-minute block in 4 minutes, and we're still body range. We're now shorting a bit on the S&P. There's been a lot of trade. I'd expect this to be a lot of volume coming through these markets. Talked about Facebook. Yeah, we definitely did. Warwick says, gotta go. Warwick, you still here? You better go. Thank you very much for staying with us, Warwick. But yeah, time for you to hit the hay. Warwick is definitely in Australia, and I know that. So thanks very much for coming out. Google looking like it's a good buy level. It probably hit that 50, didn't it? Yeah, we talked about Google quite a few times. Check out is it 50 EMA on daily? Is it daily or weekly? There's one sitting right on there. Well, it's weekly. Check the 50. That's a decent zone for you to start looking at and bring down your structure. What do you think of FMG, Tom? Over 10% div yield. I think Twiggy is a smart guy, but I also think that for anyone that doesn't know, FMG is a iron ore miner in Australia and a bunch of other mining stuff. It's run by a shark. It's been doing very, very well. Yeah, look, I think it's cool, but I still prefer the other two miners for my longer term holds, being Rio and BHP. 2 a.m. in New Zealand, Professional says. Thank you very much, Professional. I do love New Zealand as well. I've traveled to most of these countries. I love them all. Great place, New Zealand. If you haven't visited it, probably worth it over Australia, to be honest. They've got some great sites. Yeah. You can go and visit Middle Earth. All right, so we've got here 11:57. We've got our stream up, ready to go. We'll have to see what's going on. Let me just quickly unmute this. Still great music from the Fed. Can someone tell the Fed in the US to get better than 720p cameras? Because they do have the worst cameras ever when it comes to doing their streaming events. Zoom is up, up and away. That stock terrifies me when it moved that much. Malaysia says New Zealand hills. Yeah, absolutely. New Zealand has... I got fined in New Zealand. And then I remember I got fined for speeding. And I thought, oh no, it's going to be like $400 like Australia. It's like $80. That was all right. He's like, I've got bad news for you. And I'm like, oh, what's going on? Wasn't that bad. BHP is Aussie. I always thought pump at BHP. Never knew it was Aussie. Yeah, BHP is definitely Australian. Too many earthquakes. That is true. So we've got here 2 minutes until the 15 minutes close. Back to seeing Nasdaq strength now outside. Still haven't had a body close either way. So we'll check out that Nasdaq. PayPal is recovering. Quite a few stocks seem to be recovering. Here's a good question coming in from Tesla. We talked about the buy the rumor, sell the fact kind of event. Tesla, do you think there will be any huge sell-off after Battery Day? I think there's going to be fireworks each way. And yes, it's very driven by sentiment. I wouldn't be... Look, Tesla is traded and invested in. So people love holding it long-term, putting their pay packets in. I know so many people sub 30, even into 30s, that are buying Tesla with their pay packet each week. They go, here's $500. Elon, here's $500 Elon. Hey, that's not wrong in terms of it's a great way of being forced saving and buying shares is awesome. I think that's great. But putting it all in one basket's always risky. But yeah, buy the rumor, sell the fact has been an event on the markets recently. And we have also seen that Tesla has been incredibly susceptible generally to market sentiment down. It's just that this Battery Day hype is real. Very interesting. One of those things that I always like to learn from. You can bring in again and again and again. Huge sell-off on Tesla during Battery Day, says Roman. I think Roman's a bit negative on the Battery Day. You came in before and said that. I checked in Zoom's institutional buy. Seems like funds are crowded there. So hard for retail to short it despite its crazy valuation. I would say a lot of people are buying Zoom, including funds. Because they'll have to rotate into it as well and get their percentage shares and everything they need. I didn't give anyone love on the Oz 200. Oh, let's have a look here. Have we got anything going on in this session? What's going on? They're doing nothing.
Okay.
Oh.
All right, Chair Powell, presenters, and all the board members.
All right, 720p. Here we go.
Thank you. Good morning. I'd like to welcome my Federal Reserve colleagues and our online viewers. Today, we will consider seeking public comment on a proposal to modernize the Community Reinvestment Act regulatory and supervisory framework. The advanced notice of proposed rulemaking under consideration would seek to modernize the CRA by strengthening, clarifying, and tailoring CRA regulations to ensure that they reflect the current banking landscape and better meet the core purpose of the CRA.
Excellent.
CRA plays a vital role in supporting economic opportunity in low-income and minority communities in both rural and urban areas, and is a top priority for the Federal Reserve. Given changes in the banking industry since the CRA regulations were last substantially revised, the measure before us proposes ways to modernize CRA assessment areas while maintaining a focus on more traditional means to provide banking services like branches, given their importance to individuals and communities. It also seeks to strengthen the CRA's role in financial inclusion by proposing special provisions for minority depository institutions, women-owned financial institutions, low-income credit unions, and community development financial institutions. It also proposes to create incentives for bank investments in geographic areas of need outside of assessment areas, including in
I'll grab him up here.
A cornerstone of our proposal is a framework for incorporating standardized metrics into the examination process. These metrics are tailored to local market conditions, including demand and needs, and adjust to structural, economic, and business cycle changes. The ANPR also seeks comment on how to strike an appropriate balance between greater certainty in how
He
banks are
hasn't coughed
assessed
yet. That's right.
and minimizing data collection and reporting burden.
Now we'll just put him in the
Stakeholders have expressed strong support for the CRA and its goals and have called for the banking agencies to work together on a modernization plan. This proposal is an important step forward in laying a foundation for the agencies to build a shared, modernized CRA framework that has broad support. I look forward to hearing the staff presentations and will now turn to my colleague, Governor Brainerd. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am delighted to be here today, considering the board's proposed advance notice of proposed rulemaking on modernizing the Community Reinvestment Act. The CRA is a seminal statute that remains as important as ever as the nation confronts challenges associated with racial equity and the COVID-19 pandemic. Stakeholders have expressed strong support for the agencies to work together, and the ANPR is intended to build a foundation for the banking agencies to converge on a consistent approach that has broad support. Before turning to Eric, I want to thank the chair for his strong support for the CRA modernization process.
All right, I'm going to mute him for a second there because we've got market movement, and realistically that was putting me asleep. All right, so basically we've got pretty big selling pressure coming in here. As soon as Powell opens his mouth, he always seems to dump it, but he didn't cough. So that's a plus. But overall, yeah, we do have lows forming here on both markets. US 500 now new low, just tapped. And of course, the Nasdaq doing its little thing. Hit the 50. Actually, how many times did it hit this 50 on the 15 minute? We didn't really do 15-minute analysis other than we were just trading a little range. So looks like hit the 50 up here, went out a little bit, hit it, sold off, hit it, so forth, selling off. Yeah, they talk a lot about nothing. Yeah, I think I'll put it on, but put it really quiet. Let's have a look what's going on there. So right now they're literally talking about nothing. So therefore, blah, blah, blah. Jebin says blah, 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 sell off, blah, blah. Absolutely.
Who embodies all those qualities and has provided consistently exceptional leadership for this endeavor.
Christopher says, talking a lot about nothing, and then the market drops. Oops, sorry about that, guys. I would have probably knocked you out with that loudness. Hit the mic.
Eric, you're muted.
These streams, seriously.
That's classic. Thank you for pointing that out to me.
Eric, you're muted.
Thank you, Governor Brainerd. As you indicated, the draft advance notice of proposed rulemaking.
All right, so they're not liking it.
Which we will refer to as the ANPR. Seeks to
I don't really think anything's been said, though, that's dumping this market off here. Okay, what we'll do is we'll mute that up and we'll just see how the market's reacting. If it gets flogged really, really hard, we'll go back over to the live stream there and go through that one. So silver at 25.50. All right, so we've got lows testing off here. Obviously, we'll come back and look at these markets at 10 past. I think this is definitely worthwhile checking out further. We have seen a pretty explosive 36 minutes of trade. We've had down, up, down, and now going to new lows on the S&P. Let's look at the heat map here. Load that heat map back up on FinViz. It will be a little bit delayed. Check out futures as well quickly. So we've still got pretty lows here. DAX, Euro stocks really low. VIX trading at 32. We need to look at VIX in just a minute. 93.60 now, dollar index. I want to load that dollar right now. Unless he says free money, no one cares. That's true. Yeah. So I'm putting real pressure here on the 93.60. Now, I do say this quite a lot. Ahead of key news events, usually you see resistance and support tested. Obviously, Jerome's coming out a lot of times this week. If you want to have like the live stream of Jerome talking in the background and them asking questions, I'll pop that in the room. It's probably counterintuitive to the stream, but definitely there you go. You can check that one out. So we've got here dollar index still coming up. Let's check out some of the stocks moving around. Got 1.14% down on Square. That's not really that much to talk about. Tesla overall, we have selling pressure coming off that 450. Remember, if it does continue to sell off and it sells off hard, 420 could be the next buy zone in terms of where Tesla's looking at. Siddharth says Tesla 442 by lunch, trend line 50 EMA on 30-minute sup. Yeah, so if we go into small time frames, which we often don't do here. Just for a couple of reasons. You just don't get great signals on the small timeframes anymore like you used to. Still, you can see that great structure through the 420 zone, but overall, yeah, we've got a 1 hour kind of 20 here. Do I think that holds? Well, it held last time, but it even touched the 50 at that point. So Tesla's still really battery day. That's what it's all about. Coming back over to the markets during that speech, we have new low followed by a bit of a pullback. Nasdaq still not really that bearish. See if there's any new tweets from Elon here. No, nothing going on there. I liked it. I liked one of these tweets he put out. Where is it? This one. Trying to post fire content, legal sales, getting sued more legal. Yeah, that's pretty much his life at the moment. WTI selling, Beijing won't approve current TikTok agreement. Victor says, yeah, that's pretty important. Obviously, you do want to see that. Keep the questions coming as well. The more questions we get, the better we can make the stream. It's always good. If you have a question, often a lot of people are asking it. Got that euro as well, still putting pressure on the SUP, which is really, really important for currency traders out there. Cash is a position, boys, Jacob says. Just locked all my profits from puts 4K. Well done, Jacob. Congratulations. So there's a question here. The market, where was it? Dr. Horton, yeah, I saw that vid on the Fed. That is a funny one. The market was just looking for something. No war happened. No more virus scares. So they decided, let's meet the reason. Market just look for any superficial reason. I like the fall. Yeah, look, markets always do things just when you least expect them for the stupidest reason. There's a whole bunch of negative events that all occur, and then you get that. Tom, what do you think about leveraged ETF, e.g. like ProShares, Ultra Pro, QQQ? So we have those in Australia. You want to look at the leverage levels that they used. And basically what you want to do is you want to say, okay, well, are they using 3-to-1? Are they using 4-to-1? Are they using 5-to-1? How do they gear up and gear down in leverage? It's a great question. Obviously, when we have less volatility, it's much easier to go through all of these, and I want to save them for times. But yeah, leverage funds are really, really interesting. You need to look at the leverage fund. You need to look at the way that it's creating that structure, and then also the way that it deals with sell-offs. So a lot of those funds, what they'll do is they'll scale down through the leverage, and then they never actually recover back to their peak. They can't do it because they've actually got less units by the time they get back. I'll give some examples of those over time. It's a great question though. There's certainly a lot of movement and things that can go on there. ASX, few people asked before, where do you think the market will go to? 5,600 is super strong support on the ASX 200. I know a lot of people will be going to bed in Australia right now. So yeah, ASX 5,600 to 5,700 is quite a lot going on through there. What's going on with this question? Has there been a good question?
And from bankers and community development practitioners. Working together, community development and...
Yeah, I don't think so. That doesn't sound like it's really moving it. So we've got some buying pressure coming back in here. Still 4 minutes to the close. Doesn't look like there's too much there. I'll answer some more questions. ASX going to 5,400. I hope not, Cameron Brown. I don't want it that low. Webcitics says, going to start bringing my friends from the chat channel here. This is so much better. That's great. Yeah, it's really good to see the room, so many people discussing, and I doing a whole bunch of discussions amongst themselves as well. That's the whole point of the community. I can just get it started and then everyone can talk. Can we have a look at the DAX? Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair. Let's have a look at that German 30. If you're always looking at just one particular index, it's not usually that great. You want to look at the whole world, and you want to kind of think outside the box a little bit with some of your trades. We probably should look at the FTSE as well. So the DAX is a rollover right now that's technically right on what you would call where you really need it to hold. We've cracked this 50 EMA today, and at this point, that was pretty much all that was holding the market up. We were kind of slowly melting towards this resistance. The resistance of 13,250 was crazy, and it belted through that. And now we're trading underneath that zone. So with the DAX, it is a little bit tough. It hit a key point, found resistance. But I think the key here is check out all these moving averages all hugging each other. 200 simple, the 50, and probably a fib pullback of the whole move. Plus, you're going to be sitting around that 12,000 level as well for the DAX. So if it keeps shorting off, down here, there's got to be some buying pressure for the DAX. Absolutely got to be some buying pressure, you would think, at those levels. Do I trade the ASX? Absolutely, Mark. Yep. So for anyone that's looking at the ASX, and the reason I mentioned those levels before, it actually has a even better pattern on it than the DAX. So if we have a look at the ASX 200, you notice here, this actually sold off the 61.8 fib, what everyone expected the SPY to do. The S&P 500 didn't do it. So we've got here a 57.50 right now, but look at this 5,600 zone. Previous resistance, there's resistances here, and there's a whole bunch of reasons why the 5,600 could be the good hold zone. Australian market is a sick market compared to, of course, the American market. It's one of the reasons that getting into the American market can be worthwhile. So there's also at a 5,600, 55.50 zone around that 38.2 fib pullback of the previous move. So the ASX 200, I expect it to kind of get down to 5,600 and hopefully find some support. All right, let's get back over to these markets here. We've got 1 minute till the 15-minute close, putting downward pressure on the S&P here, probably led by all of those weak sectors, banks, etc. Not sure what exactly, if anything's being said that's of interest.
Are loans to community development financial institutions. And a community development service.
I'm pretty sure there's not much that's going to be that interesting in that meeting, but maybe look at the scripture after. So we've got closing down here. 25 seconds till we get the close. Anything can happen when you go into closes. Whole bunch of questions coming in as well. Dow falling. Get ready, guys. Unison says. Marlene Pullum says, I don't have to go to work tomorrow, so I'm staying up. Great, Marlene. That's awesome. I have to get up, unfortunately. I should make a YouTube vid in the morning. But no, that's all right. I've got to be open for the ASX Open as well. No sound, says Professional. I think we do have sound. Should. Hi, Tom. You mentioned a cheat sheet. Where do I find it? Yeah, you can just go to our website and pick it up. I'll pop it in the room again if anyone's interested in that. There we go. Should come to your email. Okay, so we got the close there. We did see downward pressure in the last couple of seconds, so it kind of went up and down. Now we're getting more pressure getting put on this market in terms of lows. Really, a lot of the signals here on S&P. Let's go to a proper big chart for the S&P quickly. Nvidia is still very strong. So let's look at the bigger picture here and just consider, of course, what we expect. So we expect that the market could certainly put pressure downwards of the 3,200. We know we've got a 20 EMA sitting flatlining at the 32.33, and we're pretty close to that now on the S&P 500. If we go down to the daily, looking very bearish there, and we go to the 4 hour, obviously new lows really being caused through that point as well. 2.3% down now, 32.51. So we're still putting quite a lot of downward pressure here on the market, and we just got new lows as well. High Def Tasmanian says, are you working from home in Melbourne? Yeah, we are. Yeah, I'm so over it, but that's my problem. No one wants to hear a whinger about the COVID stuff. Copper moving lower? Yeah, a little bit lower. But remember, copper, we're looking at copper as just holding big bullish levels. We don't want copper to get dumped massively. What's being said in this speech? Is there anything going on here?
Threshold approach that would be uniform across the country. But the result of that approach would be dynamic thresholds that vary across communities. As a result, thresholds would reflect different economic conditions and opportunities in different parts of the country. The ANPR suggests a potential level for these thresholds for public feedback. This reflects extensive board analysis using the data set. Some of these questions, I feel like they can just cut half of it out. And this same data is available on the board's website. Let me next turn to the retail services subtest and how the ANPR would evaluate the banking services of large retail banks.
Yeah.
The ANPR proposes retaining.
Unless somebody wants that unmuted, I'm going to leave it like that for the time being. I'm just not digging it. Not digging these long questions. All right, let's go into these heat maps and just have a quick talk about general sector performance. So Apple actually showing some bullish, but it has had that bearish crack. So I still think that's just buying sentiment in the morning from retail trade. Had FANG pretty much being pulled up, again buying pressure. And overall, we've got here still the movement in all the other sectors. My beautiful McDonald's is down today, 215. Oh well. Coke down as well, 49. Overall, a decent amount of selling coming through. So we've got new lows here on the S&P. YouTube video, caption it. That's probably a good idea, sub. If I could figure out how to actually grab the screen properly at the moment, I would do that as well. We'll get that ready for the other ones. So we've got new lows here coming in. Let's have a look at our little 15-minute charts. Load them up again. Looks like the Nasdaq's still fairly strong. Load up the Dow next to it quickly. US 30. We'll load up the futures for the Dow. Have a look at those. Dow is getting bashed compared to the others. That actually led the way here. Now, a few people ask me this question. Why don't you do the Dow more? Well, I like to use the spread more of the markets than the Dow. The Dow's just not enough companies. I don't think it shows enough sentiment. It used to be absolutely the tool. Everyone would use that. Everyone would use the Dow. You know, anybody you talk to in the industry that's been around for a long time would say that the Dow is the lead. But I do think the S&P 500 has now become the lead. Got new lows again on the S&P right now. So we're going to build pressure. Are we going to get pressure onto at least the 3230? Hit that 20 EMA, possibly 3200 today. Let's see. S&P 500 still remains the same as all of our videos. So we've still got 3200. But, you know, whenever you're looking at shorting, you always want to take it off slightly earlier. You obviously need to make your own decisions on that. Industrial's getting hammered. Yep. Gold's having a hard time. Yeah, dollar index, what's happening there? 93.60. So still sitting, waiting for some event to really push it through to that next 93.80 zone. And obviously we get through there, we'll be making a big video on that on YouTube talking about it for sure. How is it going up with no pullbacks? What's this one, Jacob? Silver sounds like it must have cracked under. Got silver over here, don't we? Silver 25. Wow. Look how fast that went down. We're talking about that 26 and then just bang, just cracked it. Oh, damn, that's nasty. Let's get that silver. Oh, on a 15-minute, it looks much more brutal. Nasty, nasty, nasty. Straight in to the 25. Will it get buying pressure here at the 50? Yeah, well, it was constantly buying it through, and then it just, the structure. Let's have a look at the structure on the small time frame, see if there's anything that can be learnt there. No, I'm not really. I mean, obviously it held up, hit the 20, and then just busted low. But yeah, you can see how aggressive the metals can be when they go. And silver is getting absolutely pummeled. I would expect copper's also selling a little bit now as well then. Silver and copper are both pretty much like metals that usually hold up because they're used quite heavy in industrial rebuilds. So copper is copping a bit of sell-off here. Silver just getting pummeled again. Not nice. Let's look up that Nasdaq. Manish. That's not good, mate. Unfortunate. Let's see that silver. Yeah, well, it wasn't nice when I looked at it, was it? A quick reminder as well, we've still got a huge amount of viewers here. If you haven't already subscribed, definitely consider doing so. We're giving away $500 when we hit 20K to a lucky subscriber. And it's as easy as that, really. We've done amazing support. We're actually at 19.6 right now. So there you go. Well, actually, I'm not sure how high we are, but definitely doing well. Thank you very much. Doing a whole bunch of live streams this week. I'm planning on, if the volatility stays up, we'll certainly be doing a bunch of opens. All right, so still getting the pressure coming in here. Let's have a look at some other stocks. I feel bad for your Manish. That's not good, mate. Hopefully, you know, you can come back from it, but obviously that's probably a bit of leverage as well. Puts, yeah. In America, obviously, that's one of the ways you get really leverage is options. Tesla, please. Yeah, we looked at Tesla. So Tesla's still bullish. I mean, you should be pretty happy with that one. But yeah, still remains at kind of this little mini area down here with this 440 zone, as was mentioned. Really, the key level still remain 420, this 455 kind of area resistance. And then if we get through the resistance and we crack it easily and come back down and test, probably going to go test 500. So Tesla still remains pretty easy. If we go to Zoom, we will be doing a video about it after the day's close, and I'll definitely check that out. If we check out Zoom right now, Zoom is zooming, literally. It is crazy, this stock. This has become the new flavor of the month, this stock, hasn't it? Had that earnings report, big blow off. I actually did not expect this to make a new high. I thought it would have slowed down around this 420, 430 zone and then hit that 76.8 fib. Usually when you have those big sell-offs like that, it doesn't come up here. I wonder if it can break a new high. I'm terrified of that stock. That is not one for me, that is for sure. All right, we'll look at this Workhorse because I've been asked about it a few times and I said I would. So Workhorse is another pretty vertical stock here. Producer manufacturing in the auto department. I can see why it's popular then. Yeah, look, this stock is really far away from a bunch of MAs, which is always a bit of a warning. You want to probably do a fib here for an extension off the last pullback and see whether it hit a fib extension. So usually markets will hit fib extensions on extreme moves and then find resistance. So we just hit the 1618. Obviously with Apple, we saw the 1618, the 2618 fib extensions get hit, and those points became huge resistance for the levels. So right now we're testing about that, but we're more importantly testing a 30 psychological. So with the stock that's gone this mental, where did it stop last time? Did it stop at a psychological? So it stopped around 20, busted high slightly. Notice the same, very similar kind of thing happened. Busted high 20, busted high 30, sold off on both events. Still very far away. That's a pretty big move very, very quickly. Another thing is, do these distance ranges add up? I don't think they will. I can already see that won't. But yeah, my thoughts are really it's found the psychological level and it'd probably find resistance there. And I need to get rid of these lines. 1 second. All right, let's go back over to the markets here and see what's going on. Saw a whole bunch coming up. Silver now under 25. Cracked that 50 straight away. 24,855. That is pretty bearish there. It'll be interesting to see where the close happens. Got market selling pressure coming straight in. 32.39. So, new lows really every couple of minutes here. Nasdaq hasn't quite shown us a new break low yet, but I'm thinking in the next 5 minutes we're going to see a new break low. And then if we see the selling come through the Nasdaq, remember the Nasdaq makes up the most, those stocks, if they start selling off, they're going to push the S&P even lower. S&P is getting hammered on a few different sectors today. What's going on in this stream? Still more questions. I'm all in on Tesla contracts, and that is scaring me now. All right, Viral. Well, good. Best of luck. Sorry, I know you mentioned silver. Where do you see it next resistance? It's under 25 now. Next support, I guess is what you mean, Blockter. Look, I don't know. It's under 25, but we have to see the body close under 25. It can wick under there and then buy up pretty strong. But that was a falling knife sell-off. One thing in trading that I always like is I like to see, if you see a big sell-off market, try not to be the person that buys the dip. Try to be the person that buys the lightning bolt, or try to be the person that buys the market structure when it breaks high. That prevents you from getting stuffed by buying the dip just randomly. So we've got here 3 minutes until, of course, the 12:30. I'm just going to go quickly get some water, and then I'll come back and we'll do the 3 minute close here in terms of the 15 minute. We'll see whether the Nasdaq can get down. We'll leave it on these timeframes and see you very soon. I'll chuck on these people and see what they're saying.
The ANPR were informed by existing data and analysis. What did you take away from the analysis, and why was it so important to developing the proposals in the ANPR?
Dan, do you want to take that?
Yes, thank you. The ANPR is based on data and analysis to minimize the risk of unintended consequences and to increase clarity as to how it would affect a broad range of banks and communities. To this end, our research staff created and used a database that included data from a sample of approximately 6,300 performance evaluations, ranging from 2004 to 2017, with the sampling designed to capture the range of bank sizes, geographies, regulatory entities, performance years, and performance ratings. We used this database to analyze how to set retail lending benchmarks that are grounded in local data and that provide a consistent and transparent way of translating a bank's performance into conclusions. We also analyzed how to use data to evaluate community development financing, and the ANPR discusses a metrics-based approach for this purpose that we believe will provide banks with greater certainty and will encourage a greater degree of responsiveness to the credit needs of our communities.
Get this water out.
Thanks. I should note that after the question session, we'll go back around for people's statement of their views on the proposal itself. And with that, Vice Chair Quarles, please, for questions. Okay.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I guess my a significant question I'd have is, I've been concerned for a while about small businesses, small farms, their access to credit. Obviously, that's been exacerbated in the current COVID event. What does the ANPR do to address that issue?
Lisa, can you cover?
Oh, yeah. No, we won't. We're sorry about leaving you with that stream. My goodness. All right. So we have the one, let's see here, 15 seconds till we get these 15-minute closes. This is big for the Nasdaq if we get low here, because remember, Nasdaq, it starts pushing lower. We're going to see that S&P really start tanking. There it is. Close. Instant sell pressure coming in. See a bit of follow through there. Let's have a look. So that 15-minute really did push low on the US 500. We're sitting at 32.37. BTC below 10.5. Yep, I believe that. Let's have a look at the watch list here. BTC, still, don't worry, it's still sitting around 10.5. That's okay. Gold sitting at 18.91. So big cracks on the metals. 24.55 silver. Wow. Dollar index sitting at 93.64, so slightly new high. Is that right? I think we're just slightly high here. So a lot of action coming in on this Monday. We're now seeing 2.71 down on the US 500. That's a big move. That's getting into big move territory. Tom, okay, we've got a couple of questions here. Brian, Tom, please let me know this big sell is because of London. Not sure about that one, but yeah. Selling just starting, says Pat Clark. There certainly is some pretty big selling that should come through now. We saw that Nasdaq crack. Let's see. That should take the S&P potentially all the way down to, this break is pretty significant. We saw S&P falling without, of course, the Nasdaq even coming down lower. So now, the Nasdaq just broke low. All of a sudden, S&P is looking like it's going to go to SUP before the Nasdaq will, which is pretty crazy to think about. Gold sinking. Gold is getting smoked. Gold is getting smoked. Let's load up Apple. Check out the old sentiment tracker of the number one. Let's load up that Apple. So Apple is now down 1.48, 105. So still holding relatively well, which is in line with what we're seeing in the Nasdaq. Load up this, quickly refresh this beast up. So still seeing retail loved stocks, the AMD, the Netflix, Google, Facebook, Amazon, Microsoft, Apple, all holding well. PayPal also up. And the rest of the stocks doing very poorly. Let's just quickly check the news feed. Now, if you're not using this on FinViz, definitely consider trying this. Basically, we have here a whole bunch of Tesla 420. Is that real? Tesla 420 already. We'll check that out. I kind of feel like we almost need to jump about it. But anyway, you always load up this news feed, and what you can do is, for a free resource, it's not bad. Basically, you get all your Reuters feeds, your Market Watch feeds, all of those types of things. They all sit here. And sometimes there's some decent news in here. But basically, it's just good to be able to quickly check. You can even keyword search, Control F or whatever else you're looking for, keyword search the screen and find all of that stuff. Let's have a look at copper. Copper's moving down. Load up that Tesla quickly. Tesla just dropped 5%. Manish, aren't you out of those stocks though? Aren't you out of gold and Tesla gold and silver? So Tesla just got cracked straight into the 420 buy, did it? Wow. There we go. It moves quick. Reminds me a lot of crypto, this stock. So we'd hope that there's buying pressure at this 420. So see how it fills the zone so quickly though? Just goes bang straight into the zone. Silver certainly smashed the zone even more, but yeah, there's always, you got like a decent area where you see some buying pressure coming off that area. In between here though, there's just nothing. That's why I always talk about zones are important. You line up your zones and you try to find it. So Tesla is coming down to the zone right now. Question is, can it hold its daily zone? This is a double top. If it breaks low, all of a sudden you've got resistance, intervening trough, double top, straight back down into here. And we all know what a double top is, especially after a blow off. It's usually a sign of further selling pressure. So let's hope that holds for Tesla bulls. Let's go back over to the comparison screen, have a look what's going on there. Go back down to the 15 minutes here on the Nasdaq. Nasdaq is still around those lows. Next 15 minutes, still very important. We'll definitely keep going here on the stream. I think it's a pretty interesting night of closes and potential tests very, very early in early trading. 4:15 now, Tesla. What the hell? Oh, don't worry. The bulls pushed it up by the time I clicked over. Everyone's got Tesla ticker going on, that's for sure. I feel we'll have a huge crash like those gurus said. I hardly believed. Well, don't worry. There's the crash concept is, a lot of people, of course, on YouTube and a lot of people just in the general public, it's always easy to say there's going to be crashes. In reality, it's easier being bullish on markets. That's just the reality. It is easier being bullish. Remember, they're inflated to go up over time, but we saw way too bigger moves. I'm still not very concerned about markets as long as they stay within that 38.250 fib pullback. Any deeper than that, any deeper than bear territory, Disney coming down here to those two EMAs, is when you start to get a little bit terrified. Let's have a look at some of these other market stuff. Let's have a look at Microsoft as well. Oh, actually, we saw all of those stocks were holding pretty high. We might go a bit of value hunting soon and have a look at some of these beaten down stocks. I wouldn't mind looking at Exxon chart soon. It's a belted stock is Exxon. So Square is 142 here. DXY 93.68. Ooh. All right. All right, 93.68. Let's get in that 50 EMA on the daily. We've talked about this a lot. Dollar index strength into 93.80. Very key. We cracked that resistance high. All of a sudden, we're looking at 95.96. This has been a big sell-off in the dollar. We're starting to see strength coming back into the dollar, into the so-called, not only, it is obviously the major, but also so-called kind of like safe haven. 96 all of a sudden becomes that previous support, could become resistance area. We know the dollar trades very big on the monthly as well. So as we said, if it got through this 92 zone all the way back down to 88, is where it probably would have gone. Look at the weekly. 20 moving average sitting around 95, and two big moving averages, 50 and 200 sitting around the 96. Pab says, do you ever trade live in these sessions? At the moment, we don't, just because realistically, it'd be a lot to do. And also, I'm not a big fan of trading 15-minute, 5-minute charts. So we're usually looking at the bigger time frames. And also remember, if I do something, then a lot of people will follow it. and that can cause problems. So we don't want to be doing that. Ooh, new lows. Yeah, whoa. There we go. New lows there. 10.7 coming in from the Nasdaq. Obviously, that's pushing that S&P down further. That'll be driven by a few of these tech companies. Is DXY... Vishnu, very good. Is DXY considered into reversal head and shoulders? Absolutely. Check out that. Silver now getting tanked again, 24.26. Silver is not a good indication if it keeps busting down here. Obviously, it's all coming off dollar strength. But overall, we don't want silver or copper to get too dumpy. Still fine at this stage. So US 100 still getting belted, but S&P is probably the story of the day. Straight into the weekly. This just hit the weekly 20. Should have just hit the weekly 20. Let's get rid of that. Very close to the weekly 20. It's not going to initially just tap the weekly 20 and find sup though. Notice when it hits weekly 20s, it can go lower. It's just that's often where the body closes. So we are just tapping 32.28. So it's a massive fireworks Monday. Do the US markets pause at 7%, Shane? Yes, they do. They go into circuit breaker mode. We saw about 4 circuit breakers, if I remember rightly, this year. Pretty rare. I can't even remember another circuit breaker. Silver now hitting 24.10. So that's a massive fall through. What's Tesla doing? Is it falling even lower? I guess it would have. Everything's coming. 4.15 now. Body closes low, especially under this wick. You know, it's real pressure on Tesla. It can move this stock. People are dumping early. Could be that people are dumping, so they buy the rumor, sell the fact, but they're not even going to buy into the battery anymore because they're getting spooked by the market. What do you call it? Weak hands. Could be weak hands coming into Tesla, unfortunately. Sentiment-driven stock. When it starts dumping hard. Kind of want to watch this on a really small time frame. Let's get on that 5 minutes, see what's happening. So everyone's finding out about this one now. Let's see if people want to buy it or people just like, get the hell out before battery day now. Hit that previous kind of 15-minute low. We were talking about the intervening trough there. Some big pressure coming in here. Borian says, baby hands. Stop loss hunting from Pab. Did I trade during the GFC? Matthew said yes. Yes, I did. Learned many valuable lessons during the GFC, such as how to make lots of money and lose it all in a few weeks. But yeah. I look, most people come into trading stocks, trading currencies, trading whatever you're trading during peaks of mass kind of interest in that area. Right now, everyone's interested in stocks. Everyone's interested in that type of stuff. A few years ago, it was crypto. It's been great to see so many people get into trading. I think it's awesome. Investing and trading is great. VIX up 20. Yeah, it does not surprise me. Let's have a look around the markets right now. Do a quick check. Go to the screener. Go to the futures screener quickly here. Obviously got VIX 32.75. I don't think that much that's going on probably during Powell's speech. Or he's talking again.
So thank you for your great work on this. We will now proceed to vote on the proposal. I need a motion to approve an advance notice of proposed rulemaking seeking comment on an approach to modernize the CRA regulatory and supervisory framework by strengthening, clarifying, and tailoring regulations to ensure they reflect the current banking landscape and better meet the core purposes of the CRA, and staff to make any...
I'll probably look at that a little bit later, and I'll prep a video on it tomorrow. But basically, yeah, 3270 VIX is to be expected. Across the board, just all about dollar strength still. People taking risk off everywhere. Have a look at the cryptos. Check out those screeners. Bitcoin's just getting belted as well. Unfortunately, you can't stop it. When the US dollar is finding that strength, it's going to pressure against all pairs. But yeah, I think silver is really the most painful. Let's get back over to those markets. 10.7 went as low as 10.670 a few minutes ago. Hit that 20 EMA right on the 32.27, which is really what we wanted in that correction so far. Still 3200 is quite open. Oh, Pal's speaking permanently.
Again,
all right.
Thank you very much to all. Meeting is now adjourned.
Oh, no, he's over. All right. There we go. He's done. The market's good again. We're going green. All right. So that one's over. A few people fully leveraged here. Why is dollar strength related to stock prices? Look, the old traditional way of looking at it is money would come out and it would go and be parked in cash, and then it would get into bonds and other things. That's the general concept. But if people are pulling money out of the market and they're not putting it in bonds, or they're not putting it somewhere else, it puts demand on it. And there's demand coming in for the dollar across the world today, probably from a whole bunch of people. Remember, the US dollar is seen as the safe haven of the world, and that's still the reality. Did a video a while ago. It's really interesting. If you don't understand this one, it's pretty interesting. So I think it's like in Switzerland, the Swiss franc, they basically create their own coin, their own dollars, sell them all off, and then put all the money in American dollars and then buy Nasdaq. If you have a look at what they buy, they have a massive holding of FANG stocks and big blue chip stocks in America. Yes, unfortunately, a few people are definitely learning a few lessons of leverage. In the US, you don't have leverage like we do in Australia. We get leverage 500 to 1, stocks 10 to 1 easy, margin loans 10 to 20 to 1 quite easily. Is 98 a good price to enter Apple? Yeah, there's a lot of sup there. Talked about Apple a little bit. Let's have a look what's going on there, and we'll look at that Tesla. Actually, I just want to look at Tesla here. So Tesla's being bought a little bit. Apple here, still fairly strong at 105. Remember, it was down to 103 pre-market. So it was sort of trading a lot shorter. So the two real stocks of the day still, in terms of sentiment, still Apple holding well. But yeah, we've got this 20 sitting right around 100. Previous, of course, resistance sitting around that 99 zone. I can see why anywhere from 97 closed bodies up to 100 are all very, very strong levels for Apple. Go down to daily, you'll see that structure going on through there. Keza says, made a move out of silver Friday. Will go back in the future. Yeah, well, it's trading pretty low now, isn't it? 24.36. Basically hit the blow-off low just then. It's a big sell-off in silver. It kind of deserves to have some sell-off. This is often what happens in the blow-off event. Sells off, picks up hard, sells back, tests lows, structures off. Is 410 a good price on Tesla? I don't know. Tesla is, it depends what you're trying to do. You're trying to buy it long term, or you're trying to trade it. If you're trying to trade it, we went through some structure points, but realistically, the key still remains that it's very, very tough to trade this particular stock or invest in it ahead of battery news. We've still got that double top here if it breaks through the low. We talked about the structure here at 420, which it's buying back up to right now. We had the wick off, which probably took out a bunch of stops. Whole bunch of things going on there. Could it be buy the rumor, sell the faction the battery day? We don't know. See you at 350, says Jacob. Yep, well, that's where it went only a few weeks ago. Everybody short Tesla. That's not good for you when it goes up. Now, Tesla is the devil of shorts. You do not want to short this stock. It is super dangerous. It crushes shorts. I mean, it's proven that one, hasn't it? You look at that weekly and you think, wow. Yeah, there's shorts all the way through this. There were people shorting it, and there were a lot of people busting up through the big moves. We got to think of it this way as well when you think about Tesla. This was insane. This is when it hit like a K and then it sold off, and look at it now. Definitely one of the wildest stocks ever. If it ended up crashing hard, it'd be one of those ones they make a movie about. Go back over to the markets now, see what's happened. So a bit of buying pressure after Powell stopped talking, and that's 10.7 right now. Hit that 20 still on the weekly. Of course, for the S&P, we're still finding it right round that kind of level. We're within 1% of where we would expect some buying pressure to come in on the S&P. It's not really led by the tech stocks like we thought it would be. We're starting to move fairly far away on the 1 hour from the 20 as well, which usually signals like, you know, getting decently far away. It won't be able to stay that far away for too long. It usually has to have a bit of breather, let the 20 catch up with it, that kind of thing. Buy high, sell low, says Siddharth Millie. You got it the wrong way around, Siddharth. Do I really think Tesla will rally above 500 even after battery day? Not particularly, no. That being said, the stock continues to surprise me with its bullish moves and bearish lack of moves, or the pickup off bearishness. But yeah, I think 500 will be a pretty big sell point for some big positions. I think people will come in, sell it off if it gets there. Just because it's such a great round number, and we know so many retail traders do trade it, like you or myself. All right, let's have a quick look at the news around the markets. Again, you can use things like FinViz just to load up a few here. Obviously, Oracle, loggerheads over TikTok. What else we got here? Eurozone bond yields, 6-week lows. Well, bonds are just terrifying. If you look at the actual, how much you get returns on them. So people starting to drive. A few articles about gold. Obviously, Dow's 3% tumble. Nothing really interesting here so far. Roku stock surges. I'll tell you what, that Roku chart we looked at before was pretty bullish, wasn't it? Looked very nice. Illumina to buy Jeff Bezos-backed cancer testing firm. What's happening on Nikola? No, I don't have this thing. Electric vehicle, drone. I can't believe people are still buying this thing into all of this really big scrutiny. Maybe it'll work out, but it's definitely risky. All right, so Silver's finding that SUP. It's moving high up now. Keep the questions coming, and I'll keep answering them as well. After battery day, negative 30%, a few people are saying here. Battery's so priced in. Yeah, definitely could be. Quick reminder, if you new viewer here as well, because we're going a little bit longer tonight, definitely consider subscribing. We're on the raid to 20,000. And of course, if we do hit that, we'll be doing a draw of $500, just given away at random to one lucky subscriber to go towards your trading account. That'd be pretty good. You can read the news on Roku if you want to. Just go to finviz.com, click news, and you'll see there's a bunch of articles going on there about Roku. So Disney down to 124, sitting right on those two moving averages. Still finding that SUP, which is nice. Still that beautiful 120 zone for Disney is very, very nice overall. Quickly refresh the big screen here and have a look what's going on. So we still just have a little bit of greens in the delay. PayPal, Oracle, Netflix barely, AMD's now barely up. Overall, it's been banks that are down, healthcare is down still, industrial's getting absolutely destroyed. 3M actually was looking like it was having a bit of a comeback. Let's have a look at this Exxon chart as well. No one's looking at the gas and the oil. People have written that one off. So let's have a look at XOM just quickly and see what's going on actually at these bases. I'm sure some people haven't loaded this chart in a while. But you can pretty much see why when you look at it, by God. So buying beaten down dead sectors isn't always a good idea. But yeah, this is, look at that big bearish pin bar or shooting star, if you want to call it. Thank you very much for the subscriptions there, everybody. Appreciate that. So it looks like we actually could be even going and testing the lows of $30 on Exxon. That'd be pretty wild. But this is pretty bearish in terms of sentiment here. And it looks like that's where it wants to go. They're definitely coming into a lot of issues there. What other sectors have we seen that have been pretty beaten down recently? Let's go to 1 month. Have a look here. So we've got the healthcare plans. Obviously, we know about the FANG stocks. We've talked about them a lot. We'll look at Amazon very soon. So we're under 2,900. That's key. If we get under 2,900 and break, that'll be very, very important for it. What other areas are interesting here? It's interesting biotech's getting beaten down so much. If you look at Bio 30 and things like that, they're actually getting destroyed in terms of where they have been. They were doing a lot better. Yeah, we'll go through a sector rotation on this channel very, very soon. So we'll basically load each sector. We'll look at the actual load up of the technicals of that sector. Then we'll go from the sector into trying to find stuff. We'll use the screen and we'll do everything. Obviously, it won't be on a highly volatile day like today, but we'll definitely be doing that. Whoa, Shane, 20 bucks Australian. Thanks very much, mate. Night all, add it to your giveaway, Tom. I appreciate that, Shane. Thank you very much. Well, I think that everyone else thanks you as well. I'll add it for you, mate. So that'll be $520 given away to a lucky viewer or subscriber, sorry. Amazon under 2,900. Yeah, let's load up Amazon. So here is an interesting thing with 15-minute TA. So basically we've got a zone where the market will come up to the 10,730 zone. We had the 15-minute trap here on the Nasdaq. It broke low. Now we come up and we test this area. Should find some resistance here, ideally. Now, I don't really like 15s. We talk about this all the time. But we should find some resistance here. Let's see if the market does that or just goes straight 20 and then sells off. How's that SPX looking? It's looking at 32.39, slightly bought up, driven by, obviously, a pickup here in the Nasdaq as well. Crash or correction still looks pretty correct even in the way we're looking at it. It's coming out of a lot of the main sectors and the beaten down sectors that deserve the bash. See you, Usin Vision. Good luck later on when you're trading the markets. All right, we just hit that 10.7. Hit it straight on there. See what happens there. Quickly have a look around at a few of these other things. So we've got Bitcoin. A few people are probably a little bit concerned about what's going on here. So 10K remains still a very heavy buying zone. Obviously, we would have liked to have seen a little bit more buying pressure here at 10.5, but it's very hard for it to have buying pressure when dollar index is so strong at 93.65. So Bitcoin's really holding pretty well when you look at it compared to gold. It's trading under 1,900 right now, and silver at 24.50. 10K multiple. Look at that. Look at that beautiful. I talked about this the other day. All these wicks off a zone show so much buying pressure accumulation. We have wick buy up, wick buy up, wick buy up, wick buy up, all at 10K. Very, very good for sentiment there. More aggressive Apple buying. Yep. It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, obviously, some of the go-tos right now for hedge fund, well, not hedge fund managers, but, people that manage a lot of money and stuff like that are going to be, well, we can get Apple at a 30-40% discount. Easy for us to buy it, give it to our clients and say, hey, you got Apple. How do you feel about that? And they'll be like, oh, that's sweet. So Apple's definitely got a lot of sentiment in it from that aspect as well, and retail sentiment. So we're now above 426 on Tesla after that crack, back down to almost 400 lows. Nasdaq hit that level, shorted off. Obviously, there's a little bit of selling pressure came in there. Be interesting to see if we hold a low. We've got 4 minutes to 15-minute close, 1 hour close as well. We'll check out the 1 hour, 15-minute here for sure. Dane McPherson says, I should get the $520, thanks to Shane. I was around when you had 129 subscribers. Thank you very much, Dane. But unfortunately, I can't be biased towards that. Nicola is done. Yeah, Nicola is terrifying. It's interesting that someone like, GM would buy into it, and then a few days later they're getting all sorts of bad publicity. I don't know what's going on there with them. Did they get massively hoodwinked or something? So Nicola's still down 21%. Was down 30 pre-market off the news, so still holding relatively well. Gold miners being beaten down. Yeah, dollar index is affecting all of those things. Thanks very much for all the chat going on in the community tonight. It's awesome to see so many people just sharing their ideas and everything as well. So we've got 3 minutes before this close. Any other stocks that we want to look at that are big, that are interesting? Ifty says, glad I bailed on zombie stocks, Nicola. Yeah, well done. GM are desperate. Yeah. Wonder what Toyota will manage to do out of all of this. Obviously, Toyota being the biggest manufacturer. You know, a lot of the German companies like Merck and Beamer. See how they go as well. Google has 200 SMA. Yeah, Google was hitting that 50 before. Google has not been a good performer. I think somebody said that Ray Dalio supposedly was shorting a bit of Google Alphabet. Go the knock, somebody says. So, okay, we're hitting 1400 here, almost. So we're basically hitting that 1400. Yeah, that's coming close to our, as you would say, the 200 and the 50 EMA on the weekly. So we're getting right back down to that level. We're really only $100 off superior kind of previous resistance becomes support buying zone as well. So Google's really getting into that territory that becomes pretty interesting. Remember, we hit 1724. It certainly got way too overbought. I mean, how would that have a 72% range? And then now we're back down to a decent fib of the whole move as well. If we fibbed the whole move and looked at retracement here, what have we got? I've got 1 minute till those 15-minute closes. We'll check them out. So basically seeing right in that area too. Nice. I like it between the 38.2 and 50 fibs usually for pullbacks. We don't want it too much deeper than that. You usually don't want it to go into the golden fib. It's about psychology. I'll answer that on another day when I've got more time to go into it. So 15-minute close is coming in here. If we have a look here, we've got 10 seconds. Gold is down because overbought for ages. DXI is up. We'll go to the moon. To the moon, guys, says Pavel, after $1,700, $1,800 bounce. Yeah, gold should go up over time. You are correct. Now that it cracked the 2,000, it should continue to do so. It hasn't really been a great performer for a while, so it should hopefully come back in. I have $45 puts on Nikola. Well done. Depends where you bought them, obviously, but yeah. All right, so 15-minute close there and the 1 hour. So let's have a look at the 1 hour close on Nasdaq. So 1 hour close wasn't incredibly bearish. You did want that lower than these wicks ideally, but it was certainly bearish on the S&P. That's a pretty bearish close there. So we closed there at 32.40, still very far away from this 20 on the S&P. Maybe some sectors will be bought up. It's not driven by tech, as we said. That is important. Not driven by tech right now. Structure still points to the overall channel being broken. Talked about this channel before. If you take the distance and the market structure here between the 2 points, we've still got this point where basically we're seeing this should be the self-fulfilling prophecy now that we close below here, where it goes down to previous market structure. And previous market structure was around that 10.4 area, 10.350. Look at the S&P 500 1 hour. Zoom at 52-week high, says RC. RC, you wanted me to have a look at something. Just tell me what it was. I'll check it out. I forgot. I will check it out, though. I want the VIX to spike, says Angela. Fear of the second wave of the Rona fueling Zoom. Yeah, I don't know what fuels Zoom sometimes. What is the moat on a company like Zoom? Is it that hard to get into? I want Tesla at 350, says Dr. Rostam. You might get it after battery day. We'll have to see. Then you probably won't. What? You might be scared. You wanted me to look at Zoom? All right, man. I think we did look at it. I said it was crazy. Yeah. Well, we're approaching those highs. I mean, it's very hard TA-wise. I think sometimes you got to admit that it's very difficult resistance-wise, structure-wise. TA is good when you get good structure and nice formation. When you have huge bullish sentiment or you have huge fundamental sentiment, it can be quite tough. Basically, you crack a 480 high. You would expect it to do like a normal breaks high, comes back down, tests it. That becomes a trade opportunity long. You take it long and just kind of follow it with a small moving average on the smaller time frames. Another thing you can do is if you think it's going to go really crazy, you can draw like a fib extension off the last pullback and test it through. But in my experience, that kind of pullback off a gap, usually it will just create a high and then short back off. You need to look at this also from a weekly perspective. We're still so far away from the 20. We were so far away from the 20 before. And you've also got to ask, is Zoom really worth it? 21st of January this year, $78, now $467. I know we went through the crisis and they built a book, but I think competition will be coming from them as well. Siddharth says, I still use Skype. Oh man, Microsoft certainly know how to beat something into the ground, don't they? So here we've got S&P rotating up, and at the same time, we've got a bit of buying pressure coming in here from the Nasdaq. But overall, still very low. I guess we'll do a bit of a summary here, everybody. So we've got, of course, dollar index has really been the story of the day. Strength here. Hopefully now buys up to 93.80. We see that kind of resistance tested probably on the daily close. If it keeps going higher than that, that'll be pretty crazy. Looks like Bitcoin's finding some sup. There's still a lot of sup here at the 10K. Gold down to really low points there during the Fed speech or the Fed meeting or whatever you want to call it. And then, of course, basically we're sitting right back up here. Daily close is incredibly important on gold. If it closes bearish like here, it's obviously super bearish for follow-on selling. If it closes back up here, and we could see it like a 1926 close, could happen, then that's pretty bullish. Silver is picking up a little bit, might go back to the 50 EMA. We'll see where the daily close happens. Very important to check that out. Overall, market sentiment is obviously bearish right now. We've got channel breaks on the S&P 500, on the Nasdaq. Both of those should signal further selling this week through the Powell kind of days. Make sure you check your economic calendars. Use forexfactory.com if you don't already have it. MarketWatch if you don't have it, something like that. Websites again, finviz.com is a great website for free. Even use Yahoo for your daily volume if you want to, or your favorite charts. And of course you want to get, if you can, use things like Y charts or even this thing here to get put call ratios. Always good to look at. ARK certainly does have a lot of Tesla. All right, well, thank you very much for attending the stream today. I'm definitely fading at 1:05 in the morning, so I appreciate everyone coming out. Please remember to, of course, subscribe and hit that alert button if you enjoyed some of our stream today. I'll pop in the room as well our free trading cheat sheet if you're interested in checking that out. You can obviously find out a little bit more about some key technical patterns that work quite well. I'll pop that in now. And again, thank you very much. Meowdy says, you were saying that we will see more selling this week, but doesn't that don't we have strong support at 10.5? Yeah, but we didn't hit 10.5 yet. So hopefully it will hit that 10.4 area. So we might end up seeing that. I'll tell you what, hats off to the streamers out there that do those 12-hour days. But we will be doing a 12-hour day soon for the US election. And we'll be doing a whole bunch of streaming, of course, over the next month as well. So thank you very much. We're about to hit 20K probably in the next couple of days. So if you're the lucky winner, we'll be announcing that during a live stream. We're sitting at 19,636 subscribers. So definitely getting in there and very much appreciated. 37 now. So thank you to whoever that was. Last words are, look, of course, always have a plan for these situations and make sure that you also consider what are the ramifications if things go wrong. As I say, most fund managers, they always think about risk. It's boring to sound like, it's boring to think about, but they always think about how risky is this investment, how risky is what I'm doing, and if it goes wrong, what happens? And that's why I always say have a plan. One of the things I used to do, print off my plan, laminate it, chuck it on a table, get a texter, tick it off each time I do it. Becomes second nature, yeah? It's a good way of doing things. We'll leave you with our new intro music, and thank you very much for attending. Catch you all, and see you maybe Tuesday for battery, maybe Wednesday. I'll announce it on the channel.